We've got, first, I think Sue is going to introduce one of our new staff members.
Alan, are you there?
Yes, I am.
We're just going to wait for Karen to get your lovely mug up there. Awesome. So Alan Harris started with the city just over a month ago part-time and has started with us full-time last week, and he is the general manager of corporate services. Alan, this is all of council.
Welcome, Alan.
Thank you.
Welcome, Alan, and thank you for being part of our team.
Thank you.
Perfect. And I think we've got a number of people registered for the open mic. Is this the order that they're in, or just call it? Okay. So first up, I've got Kayla Forsberg. Are you with us, Kayla?
Hi there. Yes, I am. Sorry, having some technical difficulties.
No worries. Go ahead.
Sure. I just have it written out. I'm just going to need about 10 seconds to pull it up, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay. Hello, Mayor Gandam and City Councilors. My name is Kayla Forsberg, and I would like to present an idea for an outdoor staircase in Wetaskiwin. With the weather warming up, my last few outings had led me to the community's walking trails, including by the Lake Park and Peace Hills Park. While I enjoy these spaces, I find myself driving to Devon or the Edmonton River Valley to enjoy their public outdoor stairs for a great workout and a view. It is clear to see both of our community parks. There is a landscape that would be complemented beautifully by the addition of a public staircase and possibly a lookout platform. In our cases, there's already a large platform present at Peace Hills and has a steep incline that would complement the stairs. Another great option would be at By the Lake Park, for which the hill is used already for sledding. I believe our community's athletes, outdoor enthusiasts, families, and those who already enjoy the parks would appreciate and benefit greatly from this addition. The stairs provide enhanced accessibility for those who struggle with the steep climb and when the weather conditions make the climb unsafe. A staircase or staircases would provide a great opportunity for outdoor fitness and have been proven very popular in surrounding areas like Devon and Edmonton, including making use of spaces primarily unoccupied, as in the hill at By the Lake Park. Considering the existing landscape, a staircase would complement the area perfectly and require minimal environmental disruption. I also believe this would provide an opportunity for businesses, notable citizens, and community organizations to contribute in its building through donation. This could possibly be done by having plaques that display such and as doubling advertisement if wanted. The land in which the park lies and where our town name and Peace Hills is derived can be highlighted as well. I've seen the recent programs to help engage citizens on diversity and inclusion, and it is not unknown that our neighbors in Maskwacis face heavy discrimination. I believe a lot of this derives from a disconnect to the land and a lack of information on its history and First Peoples past and present. The building of the stairs could accompany signage, story, histories, and artwork that help tell the story of the lands and the peoples who reside here. This provides an opportunity for those to educate themselves and build a better understanding of the relationship with this land, our neighbors, and fellow citizens. Our community already has various skilled and established contractors that could be put to use to accomplish this project. Also, as mentioned before, this could create community engagement and sponsorship, which similarly has been implemented in the building of the Manlek Center. Finally, after our previous summer facing the COVID-19 pandemic, the community and province saw its citizens embracing their homeland like never before. I know I can personally say I've never seen our parks, outdoor recreation spaces, and multi-use pathways used so heavily. This project would provide another space for citizens both in our community and new visitors to enjoy. Thank you for your time and consideration. That concludes my proposal.
Thanks very much, Kayla. I've used the stairs in Devon and the River Valley as well, and I think it would be fantastic to have something like that here. Kayla reached out to me a few months ago and I suggested that she present to council in an open mic session. Being that there is a budget implication, it might be something that you might have to bring back to the next council before they do their budget deliberations in November, December, or something that this council might be able to have on the agenda or on the radar for our administration to look at if so desired. But either way, I think it would be a great idea. And I think that Peace House Park would probably work the best, just given that landscape there and having the opportunity to be able to use the stairs there as well. So thanks very much for your time.
Thank you so
Anything
much.
else? Have anything else?
I'm done. Thank you.
No, good. Thanks, Kayla.
Thank you.
Next up, I have Rhonda Watt.
Hello, can you hear me?
We sure can.
Hi, I'm speaking today just in regard to the open door. Wetaskiwin and the possibility that this council may choose to not allow us to use the building any longer. I want to introduce myself. I'm a mother who lost a son to overdose in Wetaskiwin at the age of 19, 3 years ago. I also have a son who has substance use disorder and is presently in the city struggling. I'm also a nurse of 36 years, working emerge and ICU in the city of Wetaskiwin and home care and many other things. Now it's brought me to this place where I'm working at the open door now. I'm assisting with medical team and I am running addiction and mental health clinics luckily with two phenomenal doctors we have gotten here from Calgary, Dr. Mosley and Dr. Gursky, who are well known in addictions. We've been connecting with clients, experienced substance use disorder, and a lot of trauma, as you guys are more than aware. Shelters in themselves are a form of harm reduction. They're helping prevent many harms that are coming from just being without a home. Open Door has been helping clients get through many challenges, from poor social determinants, especially of their health, just basic medical health that they have not dealt with for years. I have seen in a very short period of time, we've only been open a few months, clients that are facing their demons, they're trusting the team, they're opening to the possibilities of a better life. The stats that I know council's more than well aware of, have shown that we have had huge wins, and that's wins for Wetaskiwin. As someone who has been on town council in the past in Saskatchewan, in my hometown for 3 terms, I know myself and the people that I was with would have shouted those stats to the rooftops, letting the community know the huge wins happening. History has shown us there's been agendas of several groups, and it's been very ineffective in the past. Now I'm finally seeing a joint effort coming together. The RCMP, Alberta Health Services, the PCN, the reserves, all seeing the benefits of collaborating, and government are noticing and stepping up to the plate. What message would the city of Wetaskiwin be showing to all these groups by removing 250 clients from this facility, leaving them without a planned new location or the funding to help that? What further damage this would do to these clients, further trauma, another blow for a population that has believed that they are not worthy of shelter, not worthy of food, not worthy of support. Just when I personally am seeing many are gaining self-confidence, learning to trust us, and letting down their guard on the system. I'm thinking some empathy, a lot of education is needed into substance use disorders, brain injuries, FAS, along with trauma-based support may help members of council, the community, to help the barriers and prejudices that have been here for a long time. My personally, as a mother who's lost a child, I know of several families within the hub that are struggling. I know parents are glad that we're there helping their loved ones, along with parents themselves that are trying to get themselves on track to get back to their own families, to their children. I'm imploring that this council not put forth a motion to close our temporary site. We all agree it's not an ideal location, but take some further time to communicate with all of us and come up with plans benefiting everyone's interests, especially this community. I know this council could make Wetaskiwin a leader, showing inclusivity of everyone, healing from very long history of previous wounds that have been here. You could be the ones that step up and put this community on the map and show others how this can be done. Personally, it will break my heart if you do this. I know that many people in that building will take it as a blow, and we will be back to square one with people that we have gained some very good momentum on. We've got people that have left the hub and gotten new homes, apartments, are developing new lives. We have outpatients coming to us even looking for help. So the open door has provided something that has not been seen in Wetaskiwin. And I think it would be very short-sighted of this council to decide to put us out on the streets again, so to speak. And that's all I have to say. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thanks very much, Rhonda. Next, we have Jason Thompson.
Hello, can you hear me?
You can, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Looks like he's muted.
Okay, we good?
We're good.
Okay. My name is Jason Thompson. I'm currently a community support worker at the Wetaskiwin Integration Hub. Speaking on the behalf of the hub. I'll keep it short. I just want to say, our dedicated staff here work hard to reduce and prevent homelessness by providing shelter, education, transitional supports for individuals and families in crisis. Me being a full-time worker who's been at the hub since the beginning, the progress that I've witnessed in the last 4 months has been absolutely incredible. Through the provision of stable housing programs, job placements, detox, rehabilitation needs, our mission to provide an improved quality of life is gaining a really strong momentum that's only getting better. The doctors and nurses that we have here, that we're very fortunate to have here in our facility, they've made a huge impact on our progress by providing much needed medical and mental help through medicine, emotional support, and counseling. This is a service that many of them have, they've never really had before. Like Rhonda was saying, the crime rates the statistics that you are all aware of, among other statistics, are drastically down, proving that the integration hub is an absolute essential asset to the Wetaskiwin community. In a lot of cases, the clients here, their involvement with the hub, the stability, the safety, the feeling of acceptance, the friendships, the positive guidance and leadership of the staff as role models and confidants, has successfully deterred them, from drug and alcohol use, gang involvement, low self-esteem, reclusiveness. And for many of the individuals, this is again something that many of them have just never had before. it's imperative that we all continue to support them, these individuals and families, to achieve their full potential as members of their communities. You know, the thought of derailing this mission at this stage, you know, it could be detrimental to the livelihood of, you know, of many individuals that are in need, in crisis. You know, a new facility would be ideal, but you know, that's a big picture. But thank you for listening. This concludes my comments to council and you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you all for listening.
Thanks very much, Jason. I've got Terry Potts next.
Hi, can you hear me?
I sure can.
Hi, my name is Terry Potts, and I currently work with the Open Door. I started working with them in December. I have been a resident of Wetaskiwin for many years, and the Open Door has really hit close to home because I do have a very close family member who is living on the streets. They're currently living in Red Deer right now, but he resided in Wetaskiwin as a homeless individual. And when he was here, the supports that he was needing was not accessible to him. And it wasn't until the Open Door opened up that people like him in the vulnerable situation that he's in because of his past traumas, he wasn't able to access them. But a lot of the people that he affiliated with are getting the supports that they are needing now. And it's only because these supports were provided to this population. These supports were never there. But now that the Open Door is here, I took the opportunity to apply to work with him, and I now work as an LPN with the Open Door. And I see a lot of people that didn't have anything to fall back on. They're starting to build the rapport with the staff members, and they know where to go to now for those supports. And had it not been for this organization, there would be still a number of these people struggling out there without anybody to show them or to guide them or to give them that hope and that support that they need. I feel that if this organization if we pulled that out from underneath them, we would have a great population here that would be stuck without anything. I see changes in the people's faces. I see changes in the way that they hold themselves. I see them knowing now where they can go to for that support. They didn't have that 6 months ago. And now that we're here, we're seeing positive outcomes. We are seeing that people, they see that light of sunshine, you know, like it wasn't there before, but we are getting a lot of positive feedback now. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Terry. Got Dr. Ward.
Hi there. Hi, I'm just starting my video now. Thank you. Hi, good day, Mayor Gandam and Wetaskiwin Council. I appreciate the chance to speak to you today. My name is Dr. Simon Ward, and I'm a family and emergency physician and one of the physician leads for the Wetaskiwin Hub and Shelter. I'd like to take the time to talk today about the recent topic of potential closure of the Wetaskiwin Hub. I echo Rhonda and Terry's excellent comments about the closure of the Wetaskiwin Hub and Shelter. I've been living and practicing in medicine in Wetaskiwin community for the last 12 years, and I was recently asked to volunteer as a physician lead at the hub in December 2020. I work very closely with the Wetaskiwin Primary Care Network, Alberta Health Services, and I've had the unique opportunity of working with various stakeholders at the hub, including community paramedics, Musqueam Health, and the Wetaskiwin Hospital and community. I can understand how hard this decision must be for the council, but never before have I seen or been part of such an overwhelming response to the homelessness issue and vulnerable population in Wetaskiwin. At this time, we have over 6 different organizations offering their services in which we can offer a comprehensive medical and psychosocial support for our vulnerable populations. I fear that with the potential closure of the Wetaskiwin Hub shelter, we will lose traction of this response, and the Wetaskiwin Hub is closed prematurely before we have any alternative location. We are much closer than we've been in addressing our vulnerable populations, and I feel that we are making a noted impact on the lives at the clients of the hub and shelter. Based on conversations with numerous physicians and hospital staff, there's a lot of support for Wetaskiwin Hub and shelter, and we understand that it may not be the right location and there could be problems, but we're happy to help with any discussions going forward, and I'd like to continue to offer medical support regardless. At this time, as hard as it is to have in the current location, we're extremely fortunate to have all the engaged stakeholders we have at this present time. And going forward, we can take these programs to a new level and improve on them even more. In the last 6 months, we've had some dramatic, great stories for clients at the hub. With improved access to care and psychosocial supports, we've been able to catch early heart attacks at the hub itself. We've helped with multiple overdoses. We've also even been able to help with severe life-threatening lung infections, in which case one client almost died and would have died had it not been in interactions with the hub staff and medical support. We've also been recently recognized by various organizations outside of Wetaskiwin for the good work that we're doing, and they've been inquiring about our efforts. And we've been able to present our hard work at the Canadian Rural and Homelessness Symposium as well. I thank you for your time, and I know we can make a difference together to address the needs for a vulnerable population. I want to thank Council for also helping us in the past as well, for all the support and the meetings that we've had with various councils at the hub in the last few months. And also want to reiterate this, the problem of homelessness and vulnerable populations will not disappear or go away. And terminating these services will not address our problems either. I look forward to working with you all. And if you have any questions for me or the staff, please don't hesitate to call me. I thank you. This concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Dr. Ward. Next up, I've got Dr. Vanderwall.
Good afternoon, Councilman and Mayor Gandam. I'm speaking also as a family physician and emergency physician. And I've been working in the hub for the past 4 to 5 months. You know, during this time, we really have saved many lives, whether it be from overdose, hypothermia, or medical disease. I think it's amazing that we didn't lose one of our clients to COVID during the first outbreak. You know, there are many reasons why people are homeless. Mental health and addiction being the major ones, brain injury. And you'd be surprised how many of our clients have brain injury. And then obvious cognitive delays as well. You know, so not addressing their needs, this problem grows exponentially. You know, as their children grow up with predisposition to addiction or with fetal alcohol syndrome. And so in the 11 years that I've been in Wetaskiwin, this problem really has grown exponentially and will continue to do so unless we do something about it. The hub didn't bring more homeless people to Wetaskiwin. It brought attention to the amount of homeless people we have who are now visible. Closing the hub won't get rid of this problem. It allows it to grow exponentially because these complex people and patients aren't getting the help that they need. The hub saves money, whether it be through ambulance services, RCMP, or medical, where many of these people would visit the emergency department up to 3 times, 4 times a week, costing thousands upon thousands of dollars, which now isn't the case because they're being treated in the hub. We are in this perpetual catch and release cycle where the hub is trying to be an endpoint, but we still don't have all the resources we need. I understand downtown is a poor location for this, and trust me, we know it's a poor location, and we're not happy with the building we're in, but we don't have a choice in the matter, not right now anyway. And as such, I think the Alberta government and city will have to come up with a plan to stop this cycle. You know, long-term by building a shelter, detox and treatment center. For right now, by pulling the rug from the project, we'll lose all the resources that have come together. And it'll be difficult to assemble a team again when the next COVID wave comes or when the next winter comes. This is not an urgent need. It's a necessity. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Venewal. Next up, I've got Dr. Talk.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, Council. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me and us. I would also like to speak to the issue of the open door. I am a physician who has worked in Maskwacis Health Center for over 20 years. Initially, very intermittently, I came from the university. I'm an endocrinologist and diabetes specialist, and I was asked to do a diabetes clinic in Maskwacis. That was a long time ago. Since then, I have learned a lot because I did not know a lot about Indigenous health, and I have a leadership position with Alberta Health Services in Indigenous health at the present time. But I want to speak to my experience as a physician in Maskwacis, with Maskwacis patients and families, which I now have come to know much, much better than I used to because I go there more often and so forth. And I was pleasantly surprised to hear about the hub. I'm not an addictions specialist or even a family physician, but in trying to help patients with diabetes, it's more often than not apparent that I cannot help when there are issues in the family. And very often the issues in the family are the trauma and the histories that lead to some of these addictions. So I also was involved during the first COVID wave in the placement of people in the trailers. I'm still involved, was dealing with one of those today. But when there was a flurry of activity with COVID, we learned about the hub, cooperated with the hub, cooperated with the physicians in Wetaskiwin and Ponoka. And I have to tell you that having been in Maskwacis Health for all this time, COVID has brought us together and the hub has brought us together. And yeah, as I say, I've been pleasantly surprised and heard from my patients with diabetes about how the hub is helping some of their family members. So we have done not the same work, but attempted to do similar work with our mobile mental health team, which I'm sure many of you are aware of, or most of you are aware of in Maskwacis itself. And I concur with everything that's been said and pointed out about the fact that this problem will not go away by closing a building or, it's greater than all of us. It will accelerate transgenerationally. I see it. I've seen generations of, grandparents, parents, and children affected. People do improve when we make time to listen to them to start with, and when they get medical attention, which has been scant. There's 18,000 people in Maskwacis. It might appear that there's a lot of physicians around, but there's many, many people who do not have medical care. There are trust issues that are humongous. As you can tell, I am not Indigenous and I only came to this through diabetes, but the learning I have had over these years is amazing. And the histories that you read about, the things that are on the news, the residential school issues, I hear them, they're real, and the trauma is real. And I concur that it's wonderful work. And anything I can do to support it or move it forward or figure out a better way if this building is not sufficient and increase the cooperation. I have in fact become the de facto medical director now for Maskwacis, but I have to say I'm not talking officially on behalf of Maskwacis. I only heard about this meeting today and thought it would be really important to make myself available. But I can certainly act as a conduit for Maskwacis if necessary. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope this is helpful. Thanks.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Toth. Next, I've got Mark Elder. If you got a phone on, maybe just switch it to vibrate, please. Mark, are you muted? Is it still showing he's online? Mark, we can't hear you if you're speaking. Is it showing that he's muted then? Mark, you're muted. We still can't hear you. You're gonna have to unmute you. Unmute yourself. Okay, we will move along to Councillor Alicia Buffalo.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Good afternoon, council members of Wetaskiwin. My name is Alicia Buffalo. I am a councilwoman for Thompson Cree Nation. I just wanted to show my support for the open doors in your community there. As I did send an email to you all this morning. I just want you to know that we are in full support of it. We are doing what we can on our end to provide the supports and to work in a collaborative nature with Jessica and her team. And I just love hearing from the medical staff and the supports that our transient population are receiving. I know that, you know, it's really difficult, and I know that you are experiencing numerous pressures from the people that you serve in your community, but I think we've already heard thus far that the hub and the shelter is just amazing. So I just want to let you know that we are here and we do want to work to heal our people. I know that we're neighbors, we're not going anywhere. And I just want to reach out and just say, I am willing to work with you guys. I'm willing to put any supports that we can forward. And I just want to ensure that we can find solution-based on whether it be finding a new building or anything in that nature. Our reality is a lot of our transient population, regardless if we had to shelter in Maskwacis, they're all going to migrate to Wetaskiwin. And the only reason for that is when you drive into Wetaskiwin on the south side, you drive in and you see like 4 liquor stores right off the jump. So I think until there's a move to reduce or even close down some of the liquor stores and some of the pawn shops that are evident in serving our people that we can really combat a lot of the transient population going in that direction. But I think the shelter and the supports that are in place could help us reduce the amount of addictions, reduce the amount of the alcohol consumption. And then so we can start building businesses that serve the greater masses, not just a small segment of our population. So with that, I just want to say, thank you for allowing me to speak. And I really do hope that we can come up with a solution-based collaboration in the spirit of reconciliation so that we can continue to work together and be neighbors and foster and build some positive working relationships. Hi, hi.
Thanks, Alicia. Did we get Mark back? Okay. Mark, you're up next. Just make sure you're unmuted, please. Gone or it's just still muted? Can you call him? Do you have his number? Mark, we're going to try to call you. Bronson. Councilor Bronson.
What's that, too? Yeah. I have Mark's phone number right here, so.
It's okay. Mark, bear with me while I try to navigate the speakerphone and my mic so that everybody can hear you as well. So go ahead and start talking.
Yeah, not a problem. Can you hear me now or no?
Yep.
Okay. So I've listened to everybody on the positive side of the hub, and I'm sure the hub is doing some good things inside. Unfortunately, the stuff that's translating on the outside just does not work for downtown business. And everybody speaking is all getting their paycheck. Us as business people, we need business, we need traffic to get paid, and they want to stay away. So we all know it's the wrong place for it. Hard to sustain business if we're sitting in here for year after year trying to deal with this. It's not fair. It's not right. It just regardless of the good work that they're doing on the inside, what's going on the outside is affecting business really bad. It affects property value, everything, the whole bit. And I appreciate where everybody else is coming from, but I think this is done backwards. So I think, to run a program, find yourself a provincial or federally funded building, have your work in progress, get approved like the rest of us do. To my understanding, they sit there, they don't pay rent, they don't pay garbage, they don't pay utilities, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. There was no 2-year agreement that was voted down, but somehow it's been invoked again in here. So I just don't think it's a fair trade-off here. There are lots of places for mental and health addictions and everything else, and I know we could use one here. But this has become not just local people anymore to help half a dozen people for the homeless in the winter. That this has gone well beyond that, and this is costing a lot. And not to try and put a price on it, but when you're going to lose your business because of it, when the damages that are getting done, not right. I'm so sorry. It's just not right at that cost. Everybody in business here has worked hard to get in business and to provide and to do the right thing, and then to come in from, I'll say it, just out of cameras and not have a care in the world of the downtown core or what's going on the outside. That's just not right. So honestly, you really have to find a location that's suited properly. This isn't zoned for this. So nothing's right on that side of it. And I feel glad that you're able to help some people, but just more and more and more keep coming. And, doing more and more damage down here. And then that's not an even trade-off. I'm sorry. So that's the best I can say with it, but I understand there's a couple ways to close that in the agreement that was defeated before in March. I just can't stand another summer of 90 days. Like I'd want it closed and moved and done. Where you move it to, not sure. But it's just not fair to the people here. It just isn't. Hiring private security, everybody. So it's just a big cost. It's just not right. Being threatened. I've had a knife pulled on me twice. No way to come to work. I'm so sorry, but it just isn't. I didn't sign up for this, and I've been here for a long time. And this just does not fly. So I'm sure you are doing some good, but unless you can control the outside and keep it all inside, I just don't see it working here. I think that's about all I've got to say. So I appreciate your time.
Good. Thanks, Mark. Glad we were able to connect.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Bye. Okay. That is it for our registered open mic participants. I've got a proclamation, the week of May 10th, or no, this is for May 10th. Proclamation is for May 16th to 22nd for Public Works Week. Whereas public works infrastructure, facilities, and services are vital to citizen health, safety, and well-being, and such infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without dedicated efforts of public works professionals, engineers, and administrators who are responsible for building, operating, and maintaining the public works system that serve our citizens. And the Public Works Association instituted Public Works Week as a public education campaign to remind communities on the importance of our nation's public infrastructure and public works services. And Public Works Week is being commemorated by the Canadian Public Works Association through the week of May 16th through 22nd, 2021. Now therefore, I, Mayor Tyler Gandam, encourage Wetaskiwanites to take the opportunity to acknowledge and recognize the individuals committed to public works in services to our community. Item number 4, adoption of the agenda, and I've got at least one added item. Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to add the item 90-day lease termination for Open Door Integrated Hub.
That will be item 8F. And we had an added delegation. Karen? Item 6B. Jessica Hutton from the Open Door. Was there anything else? Looking for a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Councillor Lonsdale, those in favor? Carried. Item 5A, approval of the minutes.
I move that City Council approves the April 26, 2021 Committee of the Whole minutes as presented.
Moved by Councillor Lonsdale. Any errors or omissions? We're ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried.
I move that City Council approves the April 26, 2021 regular council minutes as presented.
Moved by Councillor Lonsdale. Any errors or omissions? Ready for the question. Those in favor? Carried. 6A, our delegations, temporary Main Street road closure request from Rock Soup and our friend Don Haywood.
Hello, Council and everybody else. So we have a great idea for a fundraiser for Rock Soup. We want to host a drag race down Main Street on Father's Day Sunday from about 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, probably not even that late, from the TD Bank corner at 50th and 50th to the traffic circle by the high school. We are all going to be dressed in drag, numerous members of Rock Soup, and we are going to race down Main Street and have a good giggle, have a good laugh. And we're hoping to have a show and shine at Rock Soup afterwards that people can join us for, and we can wash some cars and you can laugh at us and have a good time.
Good. Are you, and I'm not speaking on behalf of council, just myself for a concern of the tracks. So starting at 50th Street and going down to 47th, you're then working against the tracks, and we obviously can't do anything with trains coming across. Would you be open to starting on 49th and going to 47th, or going the other way from 50th Street to 52nd or 53rd?
We are open for that as well. We only chose the 50th Street. We're hoping to start at 50th Street.
Okay, so I would recommend going 50th Street and then going west.
Okay, so 50, yeah, that would work fine. So for 3 blocks, so 50th Street to No Frills would also work as well.
So I will entertain a motion and then we can have a discussion. Councillor Hillgarner. Sunday, June 20th.
Yeah. What? Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. I suggest that you'd go east on this side of the railway tracks, 49th, so you're not affecting any businesses that are open Sunday.
The whole downtown landscape, streetscape was designed for road closures and events.
Yeah, but if it doesn't matter to him which way he goes, it'd be more common sense to go east instead of west.
Sure.
Because you do have a drugstore and stuff, businesses that are open on Sunday in that area.
Right.
Just a suggestion.
Yeah, I'm open either way. We could do 49th to 47th if that's more acceptable and liked. We kind of, because TD, our only reason for starting at 50th and 50th is because TD has shown really great support for Saga as well as Rock Soup, and we thought that would be kind of a nice starting point. But we are definitely open for for comments and concerns, for sure.
Sorry? I'm not sure yet. I'm waiting for a motion to be made. Councilor Billings.
Just for clarification, if this is not a parade and it's a race, that's sort of what this is about. Do we still need to approve the closure even if it's not a parade and it's, whether it's a show and shine, a race or anything like that?
Yeah, if you're closing down the street, then you have to approve the closure.
I mean,
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, council has control of Main Street. Every other street administration can close. Council has to have approval for Main Street.
and is there a policy in place that what constitutes that's available events for the Main Street to be closed, or is it totally in our discretion?
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part.
So is the discretion upon us for any event to close down Main Street, or is it just for parades and or? So it could be anything.
Any closure of Main Street has to go through council.
Councilor Blatz.
I move that City Council approves the temporary closure of Main Street from 49th Street to the roundabout on 47th Street on June 20th, 2021 from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m.
Moved by Councilor Blatz. Any discussion? Councilor News.
Yes, through the chair to Don. You talked about a secondary event on the Sunday being a car wash show and shine.
Yes.
So you're not asking for any road closures or anything of that nature related to that event?
No, we will host that at Rock Stoop itself in our parking lot. So we will have no need for any other road closure. We just want to be able to run and have a fun run and race and giggle at each other and have something fun for the community to possibly be involved in. And then we would move to Rock Stoop afterwards.
Great. Thank you, Don.
Councilor Bronco.
Thank you, Your Worship, to Sue. What happens with the COVID? Is this related to any COVID if you have so many people having a gathering? I know it's in June, but right now we can't have any. So
you should turn on your screen so they can see you.
Through the chair to Councilor Bronco, any approvals or events that the city is granting right now are with the conditions that COVID restrictions are being met. So we don't know when the province is going to lift or not lift. We've been, city projects or events have been delayed until September, but all of the community requested ones, we have been approving them if approved with the condition that they have to follow COVID restrictions, and then we leave it up to them.
Absolutely.
So as of right now, if we were to follow today's, that's because there's no gathering of more than, I don't know how many people they're going to have.
No, what we would do is say your request is approved at the day of. You have to follow whatever restrictions are in place that day.
I would like to make an amendment that I would change it from 49th to 47th, from 50th to 52nd. I don't know who you've got running, Don, but if you think people are running 3 blocks or running back and forth, you're dreaming.
It is more to see me try to run in heels. That will be the beauty.
Yeah, I don't see you running in heels for 3 blocks.
Okay, well, 2 blocks is fine.
I'm also not doing CPR on you if you. So I would make the amendment that we start at 50th, end at 52nd Street for the closure. I can't think of any businesses that are open on Sunday in that 2-block span, and then it leaves No Frills and the drugstore that has a parking lot anyways, which is irrelevant, but I would amend 50th to 52nd Street on 50th Ave.
That would be excellent for us. We are totally okay with
The
that.
amendment, any discussion? Ready for the question, those in favor? Carried. Back to the motion on the floor. Temporary road closure, Main Street from 50th to 52nd Street on June 20th from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. following COVID restrictions on day of. Councilor Billingsley.
Dawn, are you gonna need 2 hours if this is just a run, a walk?
We weren't sure how long we're gonna need some time to set up and then run the race. And then if we have anything to, take down and organize or whatever.
Thank you.
Councilor Brown.
Thank you. City is closing the roads due to city property, to have the proper road closure, so we are donating the labor for this. Thank you.
Anything else? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried. Thanks, Don.
Thank you very much, council. We appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Don.
Item 6B, just cutting open door.
Good afternoon, Council and Mr. Mayor. Wetaskiwin is a Cree word that means the hills where peace were made. The city of Wetaskiwin is currently facing a crisis in which there will be no peace, a crisis in which there are more than 250 vulnerable individuals who are desperately sick and needing help, who are now at risk of losing the building housing their life-saving supports. Many of the individuals are too sick to have a voice, but you have heard their voices through every single person and agency who has written you letters, emails, and spoken today. As the CEO for the Open Door, I lead a team that will stand firm in our unwavering conviction to be a voice for those who are too sick to have their own. On November 12, 2020, after being asked by the city to assist in the crisis facing their vulnerable population, the Open Door opened a 24/7 integrated response hub with emergency housing services in the city-owned civic building. This was, as we can all agree, not anyone's desired location. However, due to problems with the processing of the zoning in the city, we had lost our initial building we had intended to purchase. Using the civic building was a desperate plan aimed to provide a roof over clients' heads while we worked for a new location. This was literally building services from the ground up. During this time, it also became apparent that the city of Wetaskiwin has land use bylaws that do not factor in the zoning for the type of facility, i.e. a shelter, that is needed. Therefore, creating a state of local emergency, 250 individuals is definitely an emergency, was done to allow the use of the building. When the Open Door first discussed the issues facing the city, we were given numbers indicating approximately 100 individuals that had used overnight winter shelters in both 2019 and 2020, with the average overnight population running at about 15 to 20 a night. The Open Door has been vocal, along with other community partners, that these numbers were not accurate to the scale of the population actually needing help. In the first 6 weeks we were open, 211 individuals used our programming, with up to 67 individuals for multiple nights. There have been questions about these numbers and why they were so high. This population has always been here. Just as with any disaster, when proper help arrives, the true scale of the crisis is known. As the Open Door had forecasted, the inevitable happened and COVID hit the vulnerable population. Instead of having individuals untreated, sick, and moving at free will through the community, the hub programming was able to mitigate a potentially monumental disaster by responding head-on to the outbreak, increasing supports, working to develop and then implement a supported isolation center, and caring for hundreds of sick clients. Next slide, please. To date, these are the individuals that have been supported in the hub. These are the numbers that we have seen. Next slide, please. The building is not the right fit. We all know this. We are overflowing without enough room. There are 3 toilets, of which maybe one is working at any given time. There is 1 shower. The sleeping quarters are in vehicle bays, and we have no kitchen. And yet we are thankful that we have a building for so many sick people. We have made do because this is what we want to do to save lives. 24/7 supports occur. Medical supports akin to a field hospital operate inside. Youth support, mental health diversion, crisis intervention, Outreach, cultural supports, and addiction recovery supports run ongoing. There are absolutely identified security issues inside and outside of the building that will not dissipate until a new and appropriate building is found. The issues happening around the hub are not specific to the hub, but are part of a decades-long issue that has faced Wetaskiwin. The difference this time is that there is life-saving and life-changing supports that now exist, and we are making headway. If the members of this council are prepared to make a motion to revoke the use of the civic building, they need to be part of the solution. The city of Wetaskiwin will only hurt itself by continuing to create uncertainty and unrest. We have repeatedly attempted to work to provide communication and solutions. Next slide, please. Our programming is based on research and best practices with policies and procedures as any agency would have. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I have repeatedly presented this image. It outlines that without the bottom foundational needs, nothing else will occur. When a person's brain has to focus on only finding food, shelter, or sleep, they are unable to focus on anything else. They do not care if they are breaking the law because they are absolutely unable to care. None of the individuals the hub supports want to be part of the life situation they are part of. This is not a choice. Desperate people do desperate things. When humans such as us, who have the very things that we take for granted, houses, cars, medical attention, food, we are able to connect to family and friends. We have the brain power to connect to our supports, to make decisions to see a doctor or a therapist, to connect to employment, school, and life. We have a base level of reserve inside ourselves. For 6 months, we have been providing the base level supports and more, and we are seeing individuals begin to climb this ladder. As they climb this ladder, they will need less support as they begin to develop their own reserves inside of them, and this will positively impact the streets of Wetaskiwin. Mental health plays a monumental role. The opposite of addiction is connection. Think about this. If you are desperate for food and a bed, how do you focus on being connected? How would you even care if you were starving, sick, and homeless? It's impossible and absolutely unreasonable to expect that this would occur. Next slide, please. There are hundreds of professionals involved in providing supports within the 24/7 Integrated Response Hub. This is a huge systemic approach. This means that there are not one or two small agencies trying to respond. This is a monumental and unprecedented full-scale approach involving local, provincial, and federal governments, Musketees, and various other providers, some of whom are listed on this slide. Next slide, please. This is how the hub works. This is a system. Multiple funding sources work together to provide operational funds to the hub, along with these ministries, private granting companies, donations, and other contracts that have been secured to continue the work. The budget for the open door programming available through the hub in Wetaskiwin alone is over $900,000 a year. And to date, our largest contributor of funding has been Musketees, with well over half the funding that we have received coming from their support. We are in the business of caring, and through that, we have created over 25 employment positions in the middle of an economic downturn. We purchase locally where we can, and through partnerships have created further employment opportunities in other agencies. We provide opportunities for practicum placements and research, and we collect data and statistics to leverage supports and funding both provincially and federally. Next slide, please. These are some of the statistics that we have pulled out of the hub. 100% of the individuals have experienced trauma, and this is not just a generic use of the word trauma. Trauma is something that can be diagnosed out of what is called the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. You can see that 96% are complex medical clients. 92% have an addiction. 100% are in a mental health issue or crisis. These are huge, huge numbers. Another 60% are awaiting assessment for further diagnosis that will get them supports. Next slide, please. The What If Wetaskiwin website indicates that Wetaskiwinites' crime rate is the most important issue that needs to be addressed. Karen, can you go back one, please? Thank you, sorry. Wetaskiwin has the unpleasant distinction of being rated as having the third highest CSI in Canada. Since the opening of the hub, crime is down, and by a lot. According to RCMP statistics, select property crime is down 53 to 60%. Overall property crime down 39%. There's 40% less prisoners, and shoplifting is down 63%. The emergency department has noted that the monumental impact of the hub in the reduction of vulnerable population utilizing the department, which will save millions of dollars a year. Previously, clients would self-harm in front of the hospital as a mode of gaining access and care to get out of the elements. This has stopped since the opening of the hub. Lives are being saved. In the first 6 weeks of the hub being operational, Narcan was used 16 to 18 times a day. In the last 6 weeks, it's been used 6 times. Next slide, please. The City of Wetaskiwin just released its 50-year vision with the tagline, "What if Wetaskiwin?" The City of Wetaskiwin's website indicates that City Council's vision is a secure, connected, and inclusive community with a mission of fostering strong relationships, community pride, and opportunity for citizens. It indicates that City Council will strive for innovation, communication, fiscal responsibility, and accountability. Further to this, the What if Wetaskiwin website contains the following quote: "The vision acknowledges that there are abundant opportunities for development, employment, open spaces, cultural attractions, and vibrant streets in the heart of our community. It is also apparent that we have work to do." What if the work is already being done? What if what we have been doing these last 6 months is, in fact, building security, creating connection, inclusivity, creating strong relationships, and renewing community pride, all while providing opportunity? Is this not innovation? Is it not fiscal responsibility and accountability? The Open Door is working to stabilize a population in an unstable environment where whether or not clients have a building to continue this work is being threatened. This uncertainty cannot continue. So what if Wetaskiwin? The Open Door has fronted a solution and hope along with multiple community members and providers to the City of Wetaskiwin that requires us all to work together. What if instead of being angry that there's a crisis, we all work together to respond to it? What if we worked on actual solutions instead of entertaining discussions that continually attempt to destabilize the work being done across so many agencies? What if instead of some trying to force timelines that no one can meet, there is recognition that there has never ever been so much help mobilized into the City of Wetaskiwin as there is now? Just as open heart surgery takes time, so does this. One will not stop surgery a third of the way in because it starts looking yucky and getting hard. You finish it because it's life-saving and you can see the end results. What if the City of Wetaskiwin worked to be part of an innovative solution? And what if Wetaskiwin was part of communication changing a decades-long narrative in this city? What if we focused on human rights, working to all be part of the solution rather than attempting to polarize who might be more important than whom? And what if we saw humans, sick, desperate humans, and what if we listened to their stories and chose life-saving supports over the possibility of death? Thank you.
I move that we accept this as information as from Jessica from the Open Door.
Thank you, Chair. So Jessica, you had mentioned you have 3 toilets or bathrooms in that building. 3, you had mentioned at the beginning that there was 3 bathrooms or facilities, and you said maybe only 1 is working.
Mm-hmm.
When you went into the building, was there 3 operating or 1?
Sorry, I missed the last part of that.
When you went into the building, were there 3 operations or only 1 bathroom working?
When we went into the building, there are 3 bathrooms in the building.
And you said only 1 is working right now.
So off and on, it will go from 3 to 1 to 2 to 1 to 3. It depends on the day. It simply is the plumbing in the building. It's an older building. It is, and it's got a lot of people using facilities.
So when you rented that, or you didn't rent it, I'm sorry, you don't rent that. Is the inside of the building not your responsibility to maintain, to operate, to give your clientele the service?
Yeah.
So if there's only 1 or 2 working, are you suggesting the city repair, maintain it?
I'm not suggesting anything. I'm saying that there are, at times, is one bathroom that's being used or able to be used because the age and the amount of people going through that building, the facilities are very old and they don't necessarily keep up. So we do the maintenance, but they don't keep up.
I'm going to be picky on this one here. So the infrastructure, the plumbing pipe is either clogged, broken, or the toilets need to be replaced. There's no other option. Either we have a clog at the main street, the pipes are clogged, or replace it. The toilets, I assume, have been replaced because the damage has been going on in there. So why would it still be a problem?
The toilets haven't been replaced, no.
Okay. My other question, you said you worked with everybody. Muscatcheese has give you $900,000 you need to operate that building. You have collected $450,000, half of that, correct? Or all the funds are in there for operating that for $900,000? Thank you. Your operation of your facility is $900,000 a year, you said here, to operate, and you've so far collected half of that, correct?
Our operations, I think you're misunderstanding our operations compared to the money that comes in. That's quite a bit different. I'm not sure I understand your question.
You need $900,000.
The operational budget is over $900,000. That's correct.
And so far you got 500,000.
Correct.
Is there more coming in?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Jessica, on your fourth slide, you said that one of the points or bullets was safety concern inside and out. And obviously, for the most part, our biggest concern is the safety outside. So my question to you then would be, what are you doing about the safety on the inside and out?
The safety on the inside, we're doing the best we can for the situation. We're overflowing out of the building. So oftentimes people then are sitting outside the building. That's well established in the conversations we've had, that people use the outside of the building as a place to go because it's a spillover. So that is how we can manage inside in terms of using exits the way we structure and also being COVID compliant. The outside of the building, as we've discussed, is generally utilized with the RCMP, although our staff do take the interventions and do take the crisis response outside when needed, but then we work along with the RCMP and CPOs.
Thank you.
Jessica, thank you. And I guess through the chair, maybe for yourself or for Inspector Durant. I've heard many, many things about safety in our downtown. And I realize the good work that is being done inside. And I have a question right now as to how we really look after what happens outside. And everybody's probably heard I've been involved in hiring security for a dance studio right there. And I've been out there actually myself for like 5 nights. And I've been accosted by people. I do not say anything. I managed to hire security. I'm not paying for it, which is what some people think. It's another person from this community paying for it. But I go to the hub every Saturday and Sunday morning when I can get a break and talk to the people. So, you know, I'm really, really torn on this because the people that I see at 10 o'clock in the morning are different people than I see at 10 or 10:30 at night. And I love to hear their stories, and I know people need help, but I guess what I'm looking for is just more security. I know Keith and his group is really overworked. And I guess I just maybe want a clearer vision of what any of us can do for security once the people leave your doors, even out onto the picnic tables.
Was that directed to me or Inspector Durant?
Anybody who wants to answer, please.
I think there can be more in terms of the use of fencing, that we could explore the use of more fencing to create an area that is fenced off between, so the back entrance there where the picnic tables are. I think if we fence some of that and move the fencing, and Inspector Durance and I have discussed this, and kind of fenced it so the entrance kind of goes over by the bay doors and they have to walk down and in, that might do a lot of protection for both the alley use and then the clients that need to and want to sit outside as well. So I think there could be more examination of something else as well.
Okay, I'm like I say, I think what you're doing inside is great. And I've just heard many, many, many complaints from our downtown businesses as to problems going on. And I see it happening because I have seen it happening. But I've also taken the time on my time off to go and sit on the picnic tables and talk with these people. And I understand the work that is being done there as well. So like I myself am really torn as to what we need to do. So, and I think more communication and I know we've asked you before for communication to our downtown businesses, and I know it's kind of been said that we're the people to do that communication. I think a meeting with us and yourselves and our downtown business community could really help. Now, yeah, no, that's, as Councillor Nielsen says, I'll get off my soapbox.
Thank you. Jessica, you said something here that you have 250 people clientele, and when you're overloaded, you put them outside in that picnic table. Are those not your responsibility? You keep saying once they're outside the building, they're not your responsibility. Correct? But they are your clientele that you can't fit in the civic building, and you put them outside.
They choose to go outside because there's not enough space inside. So like a school at recess, they go outside. So they can go in and out as anybody would in their home. So if they don't want to be inside, they go outside.
Okay, but like at school, those students are part of the school responsibility of the principal. But my other point is, if we get 300 people, once that building, do you ever say no to people, or just keep bringing them in and stockpile them? Do you ever say no? Because 250 people, I don't think can hold that many people in that building. There's got to be fire regulations and stuff like that in there.
Fire regulations are followed. We have the number at the max that we're allowed in the building. And what we have indicated consistently is the number that we have per night. We don't have 250 people sitting downtown in a building right now. We have through the night, the 250, that number that I have spoken to as it has grown is who has access services. So there is a portion of those who have moved on into support or moved on into their own independent living.
Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair to Jessica, just one real quick question. Is the open door integrated hub considered an alternative relationship site with Alberta Health?
What do you mean by that?
It's just a funding process through Alberta Health in terms of a fee for service and things of that nature.
No, because we're not a designated shelter.
Thank you.
I said I was yes, I did. I raised my hand. It's information.
Stick it up higher.
Okay. My microphone held my covered my hand.
Absolutely. Item 8A, 2020 Finance and Economic Development Operating Carry Forwards.
7A we missed.
7A, yeah.
7A,
Oh.
Reading of the updated and revised City of Wetaskiwin FOIP bylaw 1995-21. See, if you'd left my mic off, nobody would have known. Welcome.
Hi. Hi.
Yeah, make sure your mic's on. They'll give you trouble.
This request for decision is to approve the update and revised Freedom of Information Protection of Privacy bylaw to reflect current legislation for the City of Wetaskiwin. The current bylaw 145199 will be repealed and the new bylaw 1995-21 will replace it.
Anything you'd like to highlight?
No other things to highlight compared to from when I presented at Committee of the Whole.
Okay. Entertain a motion and then we can get into questions.
I move that City Council gives first, second, and third readings to FOIP bylaw 1995-21.
We'll have to do it one at a time,
Yeah.
Councilor Bronco. Just one at a time. First reading.
Oh, sorry, first reading.
First reading. Moved by Councilor Bronco. Any discussion? Councilor Nielsen.
Through the chair, the Schedule A in terms of the fee schedule, how did we arrive at the fee schedule?
The fee schedule is a structured fee schedule that comes through the regulation of the Freedom of Information Act. So there's a regulation that's created that has these fees, and we've just mirrored those fees.
Oh, so we don't set the fees at all?
No, we do not.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried.
I move that City Council gives second reading to FOIP bylaw 1995-21.
Moved by Councilor Bronco. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried.
I move that City Council give third reading for FOIP bylaw 1995-21.
Moved by Councilor Bronco. Any?
I move that City Council give unanimous decision to bylaw or FOIP bylaw 1995-21.
I like that you gave time out. Moved by Councilor Bronco. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously.
I move that City Council give third and last reading to FOIP bylaw 1995-21.
Moved by Councilor Bronco. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Now we're on 8A, 2020 Finance and Economic Development Operating Carry Forwards.
Good evening, Council. So this RFD addresses two different carry forwards that we are bringing forward. One requires a motion, which is the finance carry forward, and the other one is just for information, as there was already a contract signed. So the first motion, the one with the motion required, 2020 finance carry forward in the amount of $29,500. Finance is requesting to carry forward $29,500 from the 2020 finance contracted services budget to 2021. The budget was $45,000 and only $15,444.50 was expended. This leaves $29,555.50 of unspent budget allocation. These funds will be used to fund the 2021 contracted services expenditures and will be transferred to the carry forward reserve. Then the 2020 economic development carry forward of $21,000. So in 2020, $30,000 was budgeted for the branding project. There were only $9,000 in expenditures, which leaves $21,000 of unspent budget allocation. A contract has already been signed and therefore a motion is not required for this carry forward. However, we did want to update council as these funds will be transferred to the carry forward reserve.
Thank you, Jody. Councilor Billingsley?
Just clarification question. Are these monies, if they are carried forward, are they earmarked for anything or are they just going into a reserve?
So the economic development one, as there has already been a contract signed for the branding project, that will be earmarked for the branding project in 2021. And then the finance one, I believe, is mostly for contracted services. So that could be things like different contractors coming in to help us in with year end or updated project management for the different projects we have going on this year. I don't believe it's earmarked.
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, there was a little bit of a discrepancy in the theory of carry forward funds. So currently there is a policy in place with reserves. I believe it's the reserves. I'll have to double check. And there's a statement in there that all carry forwards can be approved by the CAO. This was utilized late last year to say we need to carry forward some funds, but we've gone through and said, no, we need to change that policy, or that bylaw should not be like that. And so in discussions with finance, we had made some commitments when we talked about cleaning up the department and putting in all of these procedures, and we were going to use that money. And so we actually need council to officially do that. So it is part of the bigger plan and the committed funds. We need to clarify that bylaw moving forward.
So what would happen to these, well, especially the economic development, if we say, no, we're not going to put it to there, we're going to put that in somewhere else? What would happen?
You can't. So we've already committed the funds. So legally that was in an account.
Yeah.
It was just really put in here for information.
Okay.
Anytime funds were approved and a contract was committed, we cannot cancel it. I mean, there are penalty clauses and you would have to pay them up to that point, but
It's just more of a housekeeping thing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Hilgerner?
I move that the 2020 carry forward amount of $29,500 from finance contracted services to the carry forward reserve to fund the 2021 finance contracted services expenditures. Hopefully that was right.
Moved by Councillor Hilgerner. Councillor Bronco.
Thank you, Your Worship. Chair to the suit, $55.50. Is that going to give us a problem? Because if we had $29,555.50, then we're carrying forward $29,500, so $55.50. Where's that money going? It's a clerical error, or do we put $29,55.50 to carry forward? Say we have $29,555.50 unspent, but at the top you got $29,500.
Jody, is that a math error?
No, so we just wanted to do an even rounded number. So the remaining funding, if there is accumulated surplus, it would go into the accumulated surplus at year end.
Because we're voting on what's presented to us.
Yep.
So can I get that changed, $29,555.50?
Through the chair to Councillor Bronco, I would assume because the motion only says 29,500, that's all we need.
Yeah.
I had sent an email to Raylene, Candace, administration, and the rest of council, or yeah, to the rest of council on, so if that money in economic development was carried forward, it's part of the contract that we've got. Can that then be budgeted for in the 2022 budget deliberations, and that carryover or that carry forward be used for something else, or does it have to be used for that contract?
Through the chair to the chair, sorry. It has to be used for the contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can disregard my making our region digital email. Anything else? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried. Item 8B, 2018 Public Art Reserve Contribution.
So this was discussed at the last council meeting and there was a motion to identify the potential of reserve accounts to fund 50,000 to the Community Art Reserve. So we are bringing back, here's a history of the motions. The motion 117-18 that identified the $50,000 was actually defeated. So we have identified the contingency reserve, the stabilization reserve, and then potentially the 2020 accumulated surplus should one occur as possible areas to fund the $50,000 public art reserve.
Councilor Nielsen, do you remember that being defeated? I struggled with that. Do you?
It was defeated at the time. Some people at the table felt it was better just to put it into reserves as opposed to earmarking it specifically for a roundabout. So the motion was about putting an art structure in the roundabout. And I think because of the specificity of what was being in that motion for a particular site is why it was defeated. And then that's why it was moved in. The motion to establish the public art reserve came out of that. And that was the intention, to try and to earmark that 50 without committing it to a specific project.
I've got a totally different recollection of events.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying that you're
Yeah.
wrong. I believe me, my memory is not something that, that we should be.
Well, your memory should be better. You're way younger.
You're way more experienced. I figured
Oh, yeah,
your memory
okay.
should be better. Okay. Just yeah.
So
Go
for
ahead.
clarification, right now, in the public art reserve, there is a grand total of
70,000.
Today, there is $70,000 sitting in that account. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Councilor Nielsen.
And what the intention was, when the time started, was to have the additional 50,000 in that account.
Yeah.
But it didn't get placed there for different reasons, which would have brought that reserve up to $120,000.
But that was the one that was defeated because it was specific to the roundabout. That's why there isn't that $50,000 in there. So it's not actually, it's not missing. It was never.
No, it's not missing, but it was put aside in another reserve. Sorry. As I understand, is that correct, Sue? It was moved from one reserve into another.
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, that was the discussion that night. Administration let council know that that money was gone. So what happened in the past was when projects were planned, the money was not actually earmarked and set aside. And so when the year end came, it was flushed through to the general reserves and never actually allocated to the roundabout or an art reserve because we didn't have our art reserve policy at the time.
But that $50,000 was never actually supposed to be in a reserve period.
No.
It was supposed to be reserved as part of the project.
But there was no motion reflecting that.
The earlier motion with the approval of Main Street, there was discussion and the approval was based on the plan that was there, which did account for $50,000 for art in the roundabout.
So then that's where I'm, like, when I read this and saw that it was defeated, then that's not how I remembered. I specifically remembered, I thought, that we had $50,000 that was to go towards that roundabout. But then if our history of motions and what's been approved or defeated, or carried or defeated, maybe that's where I'm,
Yeah, because the original approval of Main Street, that phase was done 2015, I believe. And the way that we did motions back then, they were very generic. They weren't very specific. And when council approved that phase of the Main Street, those drawings, it had, and that cost estimate had $50,000 set aside for art.
so that was part of the entire project
Yes.
and not a specific, oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, then we're both right, Councilor Nielsen. That's how I say face. Councilor Bronco.
Sorry, Alan, you had a question.
Nope.
Regarding that, when we did the Main Street, the roundabout, we wanted to take $50,000 to sit on the big concrete pad there.
Mhm.
I was all gung ho until the quotation came for that tree that was, I think, $97,000, and that's where it was.
That we couldn't get anyways, but
That's where it was defeated.
right, but the intent was that there was $50,000.
No, there was never intent, we were to take it out of the operation, out of that Main Street, out of the.
Yeah, but there was always $50,000 earmarked for that, for
that.
whatever it was going to be, but there was always supposed to be $50,000 that was earmarked for that centerpiece. Regardless of what it was, that was the initial, like that was.
Initial, but I don't think we made a motion to.
No, because it was part of the
$50,000
project.
aside.
Yeah, it was part of the overall project.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I'm back on board. Somebody want to make a motion?
So if you're right and I'm wrong, the expenditure of $50,000 was earmarked then specifically for a roundabout. It was part of, as Joe says, the project costs. Then if it was earmarked for project costs, why did we not go ahead with the project and actually expend the funds that we set aside to achieve that?
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, because the way that our financial system was set up at that time, they did not clear project funds into a separate account. So it was never held. So when we cleared the accounts at the end of the year for year end, that money was just rolled right back in to the surplus for the city. It was never actually, it was earmarked on paper. No one talked to finance and said to finance, you have to hold this 50,000 aside.
Through the chair to Sue then. So the motion that potentially sits here is to move it into the public art reserve. And as much as I initiated this conversation, are we better off just to identify that there's $50,000 that we still need to complete a project? Or is it better off to be actually put into an art reserve and then create a community committee to examine it?
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, I believe putting the money into the art reserve and then the committee will decide where art goes within the community. So not specific to the roundabout, but just knowing that there was meant to be 50,000 spent on art. I would imagine the roundabout is going to be a natural place for some art to go in the community.
I wouldn't rely on what naturally should or shouldn't be. I think that it needs to be policy driven. Very clearly articulated where money may or may not be and how it's going to be spent.
So what would you be looking for policy direction? I'm not arguing the point. I'm
No,
trying to.
I would say that if the intent of that $50,000 was for a centerpiece in the roundabout, that if we do move this $50,000 into the community or public art reserve, that it's specific in that public art reserve, that's where that money is going, period. So we don't have $120,000 in a public art reserve and we decide to do a big blue O or a W or something like that, like to rival Red Deer and Calgary with their art designs. I think that if the intent of that $50,000 from that project was for the roundabout, then that $50,000, if we're pulling it out to put it into the public art reserve, needs to be specific that that $50,000 is for that roundabout. And if the public art committee decides that $50,000 isn't enough and they want to use part of that that other $70,000 that's in that public art reserve, they can do that, but they can't spend $2,000 on a centerpiece and $48,000 goes to something else within the community.
Then I'd like to make a motion. I move that City Council moves $50,000 to the contingency reserve to the public art reserve with the understanding that the $50,000 is intended for artwork in the roundabout.
Yep.
Restricted?
I'm sorry?
Restricted?
Sure. The question was that it's restricted for artwork in the roundabout. Thank you, Dean.
Moved by Councilor Nielsen. Any discussion? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried. Please.
Through the chair to Sue then, I believe there is some work being done on terms of reference for a public art committee. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Item 8C, City of Wetaskiwin brand strategy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Karen, if you give me access, I'd like to share my screen so I can share the presentation that I have.
That's risky, Karen.
Okay. Okay, so I'm here today to present as information on behalf of the Economic Development and Communications Department for the City of Wetaskiwin, the 2021 brand strategy. I'll walk through the process that we have completed to date, and McKim will be reviewing the launch. McKim is here. They'll be reviewing the launch and media plans at the end of the presentation. So to give a bit of background, we went through an RFQ process in August of last year for agencies to work with Stormy Lake, who we had consulted with for the 50-year community visioning project. So that included engagement with our community members, and the ultimate goal was to develop a brand strategy for the City of Wetaskiwin. Why do we need to brand the City of Wetaskiwin? So after completing the 50-year community visioning project, it was identified that we have a very aspirational vision for the future of Wetaskiwin to develop a vibrant, sustainable, and self-sufficient small city. To do this, we require a strong story and branding to communicate to all of our stakeholders, including our current residents, prospective new residents and businesses, as well as our neighbors and travelers, to feel welcome and to access all of the experiences that we have to offer in Wetaskiwin. A strong brand foundation will create a clear promise of what kind of experiences we have to offer, the story of who we are, where we are going, as well as an identifier that makes Wetaskiwin easy to recognize. This includes a logo and tagline. So why now? I think we can all agree that for years, Wetaskiwin has struggled to raise our profile, attract residents, businesses, and visitors, as we are challenged by a lackluster reputation and brand awareness. The current brand needs to be refreshed to reflect the city today and the creatives that tell the Wetaskiwin story and promote the exciting changes that are happening and the future possibilities. The project purpose and objectives. The objective of the project was to research, review, and revitalize the city's overall brand and ensure it reflects where we are today and our vision for the future. The ultimate goal of the brand strategy is to communicate the reasons to choose Wetaskiwin as a place to live, visit, and invest while fostering and supporting loyalty among our current residents and businesses. Strategic alignment. So the Wetaskiwin brand strategy that we're working on directly supports many elements of the 2018 to 2022 strategic plan, including the goal to create a strong community identity and to focus on the city as an excellent place for business, investment, and as a destination for tourism. Research and engagement. The majority of the brand foundation research took place during the community engagement for the 5th-year community visioning project. McKim was involved in this process and analyzed a number of our strategic and communication documents, which helped guide the process to date. Last week, we hosted 2 focus groups with ambassadors and key members of the community to review the platform and creatives that were proposed. So we'll be taking that feedback into consideration as we finalize the final messaging that will be brought forward. Implementation. So city branding is a long-term process, and implementation will be a phased approach taking place over the next 4 to 5 years. In 2021, we will see the creation of a new logo and visual identity, an aggressive marketing campaign for brand awareness, updated materials, including website, social, print materials, as well as engagement with our stakeholders to inspire them to become brand champions for the city of Wetaskiwin. As mentioned in the last presentation by Jody, so McKim Communications Group, their consulting fee was $30,000 for the brand platform, execution assets, guide, key presentation materials, and that was included in the 2020 budget, which was approved to carry over for this year. $7,500 was budgeted for the rebrand, as well as $156,000 was approved by council for the marketing campaign, which will be presented to you later today, well, in a couple minutes. So what does need to be considered is that in 2022 and onwards, there will need to be a separate budget reflected for brand refreshes that include city signage and materials and targeted marketing campaigns. We do estimate these costs, and it's a really rough number, between $80,000 to $150,000 based on signage. But of course, we do have to take some key steps to see what needs to be reflected. So for the 2021 marketing campaign, it was identified that we need to effectively communicate the key advantages, which makes Wetaskiwin unique and inspire the audiences that we're targeting to live, visit, and do business in Wetaskiwin. The issue that we're going to be addressing is the lackluster reputation and weak brand awareness. So we're seeking to raise the appeal and awareness for visitors, prospective new residents and businesses, while creating a brand foundation that engages locals to celebrate and promote the city. And then with that, I put together a short roadmap just so you can see that it is a long-term approach between 2021 to 2024 and onwards. A lot of that comes down to the marketing promotions that we would do throughout the years. The first one in 2021 will be overall brand awareness, and then obviously leading down into promotions to engage prospective businesses, tourism, and inviting people to live in the city of Wetaskiwin. And with that, of course, we need overall support, not only from council, but also from our leadership team within the city and city ambassadors. So it is a long-term approach. And with that, I will hand it over to McKim so that they can showcase the launch and media plan that we have for 2021.
Thanks, Raylene. I am about to, there we go. Perfect. Thank you. We're presenting our recommendations for the initiative launch and our media recommendations for the campaign launch. We've based our plan on these recommendations on our experience rolling out many new communications initiatives for public entities over the years. And one of the things that we recommend that we not do is don't launch a logo. Simply unveiling your visual identity is a way to paint it with a target that will result in subjectivity, because everybody has an opinion about design. But we do plan to reveal Wetaskiwin Marketing's visual identity, but it would be presented in context. And then showed in applications, some of which council has seen and which are being updated in response to focus group feedback. So we do recommend launching to community with a similar level of context so people can understand what the purpose is. So obviously the logo and the logo alone is what people will respond to. But we want to make sure that people know that this isn't just a brand. And because people who don't work in communications are obviously skeptical about the value of branding, when we talk about this project, it's important that we convey that this is a means to a tangible end, and that being to elevate perceptions about Wetaskiwin, as Raylene touched on, and build success for the city as it promotes itself as a great place to live, work, do business, and visit. So quite simply, this initiative is a fresh new way to promote Wetaskiwin and tell its story. So as such, we do recommend engaging brand advocates to ensure the success of the initiative and amplify the messaging. So your worship, members of council, your voices of support will be key to successfully launching the initiative and ensuring that it rolls out effectively. Raylene and the economic development and communications team are continuing to focus test the brand elements, and are meeting with some of the participants who actually took part in the visioning process. So that'll identify any issues and challenges. And then through that process, they'll also identify some potential influencers and advocates among community members that we would engage in this process as well in the rollout, ideally. We'd also recommend engaging business leaders and local influencers, perhaps even some well-known expats, and bringing them into the fold and asking them to amplify the city's efforts to promote Wetaskiwin. So because we want to make sure that we launch in a way that provides at least enough context for people to understand what it is that the brand is trying to do, and also an opportunity for advocates to voice their support, we would recommend launching the event as a webinar. So ideally, that webinar would be opened with greetings from His Worship Mayor Gandam on behalf of council, potentially greetings from Sue Howard on behalf of administration, and then a presentation of the initiative, which would include much of the background and some of the creative concept work that council has been privy to. And then we'd recommend opening the floor for a limited time for comments and questions. Webinar functionality would enable us to enable individual participants to appear and speak, as well. Q&A and comment functions can be enabled, so we can actually ask people to respond publicly and openly. We would recommend, obviously there would be an uncontrolled element to enabling commentary. So the structure and scope of the public response part of the webinar will need to be determined based on council's comfort level. But from our perspective, we'd recommend it be as open as an in-person event would be, but also subject to similar protocols. For example, to reduce potential for anonymous trolling, we would require people to register, attend, and with their name and email address, etc. And we'd ask those who wish to comment to do so with microphone and camera on, those sorts of protocols. And again, to amplify your efforts to promote Wetaskiwin, engaging news media effectively is an important part of the launch. So we recommend holding a pre-webinar press event, which is essentially the presentation, but they would be given it just prior to the public presentation, a shortened version of what you're going to present to the public, with the understanding that the content is embargoed until the public webinar is actually in progress. And then you provide media with the assets they need to enrich their stories, visuals of campaign creative, a media release and background, or that sort of thing. Perhaps a recording of the webinar presentation itself for television news. As well, to ensure, we'd want to make sure that those stakeholders and advocates are available for interviews and discussion after the public launch event, and that a communications manager is available to schedule those interviews. And then those stakeholders will have been prepared in advance with background information and anticipated Q&A material. And again, to amplify your efforts to promote Wetaskiwin, we recommend inviting the public to embrace, adopt, and promote the initiative. That can be done in a number of ways. Simply asking people who live here to promote Wetaskiwin and share their ideas about what makes it a great place to live, work, and visit, using the hashtag in their social media feed, all kinds of things like that. But also give people ideas about what to do on an initiative landing page. Really simple thoughts about leveraging their own social channels and those of their businesses to amplify promotion. And you don't need to get into the merchandise business, but if local businesses and especially tourism related businesses want to make and sell merchandise that carries the new Wetaskiwin visual identity, it's a good idea to enable them to do that, but to stay involved so you can ensure the integrity of the brand. So you'd license it for no cost that the city would need to approve. Or you could simply develop some designs and make them publicly available through an online fulfillment site like Redbubble. So finally, it's important to launch an actual communications program immediately, pretty much immediately upon announcing an initiative like this, to really make it tangible to people, and so that they can take pride in the way that the city's new identity is being projected. So, and that really demonstrates that you're serious about promoting it. So Andrea Barilick, our account supervisor will now take you through an overview of the media plan for that campaign that's planned right now to be in market towards the end of June.
That's great. Thanks, Audra. So as we were planning media, and I think Raylene mentioned this prior, we were developing a public-facing awareness campaign that promotes the city of Wetaskiwin as a place to visit, live, work, and do business. To support economic development, the campaign emphasizes prospective tourism and economic tourism visitors, and it'll also reach prospective new residents and create awareness with prospective new business audiences. So we're recommending outdoor as a way to create awareness with a high impact medium and launch new communications initiative in a big way. And then using digital for its effectiveness and efficiency in targeting specific audiences that we want to reach. So we have a few examples of the locations. So as we were looking into availability for billboards in the region, it was extremely tight. We did look for availability of the highest profile highway superboards adjacent to highways that our target audiences and target communities would most likely travel. So our recommendations are to reach travelers headed to Edmonton from the north and from the west. We're recommending a highway superboard on Highway 16 near Spruce Grove. And this particular board that we've selected has more than 20,000 cars a day on average passing it. The second board that we're recommending is on the number 2 near Nisku, north of the airport and south of Edmonton. So this highway superboard will reach people headed to Edmonton from the south. And this one has more than 48,000 cars passing this board every day. And then on 2 near Innisfil. This board will reach people headed north from Calgary with more than 23,000 cars passing this board every day. So if you're driving to Edmonton from anywhere south of Innisfil on 2, you'll get that double exposure, which is really great. Finally, targeting anyone traveling to the Speedway, the city has an existing contract for board that we'll leverage as part of this campaign. Fingers crossed that we'll have races this year, but the city's contract is a long-term contract. So when racing gets underway, the message will be seen by attendees. Exposure is dependent on attendance numbers at the Speedway events. So those are our recommended outdoor placements for the tourism campaign. And then specifically moving on to digital, we're recommending ads on Facebook, Instagram, and the Google Display and Search Network. For this digital campaign, our expected impressions are upwards of 14 million impressions and 32,000 clicks. The campaign is expected to launch late June, as Audra referenced. So here we're taking a look at a summary that demonstrates when we're planning for the campaign to be in market. So note that currently the plan is for digital to be in market at higher frequency during the summer months, and then lower levels headed into later into the year, into the fall, and tracking out till the end of the year. The city's raceway billboard contract is for 2 years. As I mentioned, it's a long-term contract. So that piece will extend beyond this campaign plan into the following year. So those are our launch and campaign planning recommendations. We're happy to answer any questions or go back throughout the presentation to clarify anything.
And that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Councilor Bronco.
My question is to Raylene.
We're gonna have a motion and then we'll, unless you need clarification. Councilor Nielsen.
Thank you. I move that I move the council accepts the brand strategy, creative concepts, and marketing plans as information and directs administration to proceed with implementation for June 2021.
Moved by Councilor Nielsen, followed up by.
Go ahead. Thank you. The question with regard to the billboards is, are the billboards part of a contracted cost that we're currently in, or are the billboards an additional cost above the contract we're currently in? Anyone?
Sorry, through the chair, as far as I know, the billboards that were presented today would be a new contract, and it's for specifically for this marketing campaign. If we're in a different contract, I'm not aware of that. So this is specific to this marketing campaign.
Through the chair to Councilor Nielsen, this is over and above the other marketing that was planned.
And do we have an anticipated cost with regard to billboards?
Through the chair, I can, so for this marketing campaign directly, the anticipated cost for the boards that we're presenting is about $40,000. Yeah.
Sorry, Ray, can we clarify if this, because there's already a marketing plan budget approved, is this over and above that, or is this included in that?
Oh, no, sorry. So to clarify, the $156,000 that was approved by council for the marketing campaign, everything that was presented today is included in that. That is the marketing campaign for this year.
Councilor Bronco.
Thank you. My question is for Raylene. You guys give us a budget for 2021 and another one for a budget for 2022, and it's a 4-year project. Do you know what roughly the cost would be for 2023 and 24? Or is that the same year? Like we're in 2022, we're allowing $150,000 put the budget, what would it be for 2023 and 2024 anticipation?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Brinko. At this point, it's a really rough estimate. I don't have a strong outline of what marketing assets we have currently that will need to be replaced. And I think a lot of it could be like we might have the welcome to Wetaskiwin signage that could be replaced, but there could be other assets like our vehicles that if they're branded currently with the current brand that we have, there could be decals that could be placed overhead. So the budget that I put forward was a really rough estimate. And I think as we go forward, we'll have more clarification as we go into each budget year.
Councillor Billingsley.
Thank you. Raylene, it said that estimates for rebranding a municipality has cost between 80,000 to 150,000 for a mid-sized city. Are we considered a mid-sized city? And boy, is that a big difference between 80 to 150, and where are we falling into?
Yeah, through the chair, again, it's something that I don't have at this point. I don't have the actual assets of what we have branded, whether it's street signage, vehicles, uniforms. I'm not sure what we have at this point. So it was really just a rough estimate of what those costs could potentially be for a mid-sized city of our size to rebrand. But that's also why we're saying that this is going to be a long-term effect. And I think a lot of what could be rolled out will take place over a number of years as assets kind of come to their end or contracts, then we can roll in the new brand. It doesn't have to be done all at once.
So the 156 that we did, was it 156 that we approved?
Sorry, the 156,000 is for the marketing campaign. So that's for the billboards, digital and social that will take place this year. And we'll be refacing our website and social media and anything that can be refaced without hard costs. And then in 2022 and onwards, we'll have to have a new budget that's strictly allocated for the rebrand elements that we see fit.
So over the next 4 years, we could be looking at another close to $500,000 in marketing being spent. Is that how I read this? At $150,000 a year?
No, through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, a lot of what Ray is talking about are business cards and things like that that are traditionally in a cost estimate. We're going to use up what we have, and then there'll be a small fee for the setup of the brand and then moving forward. So we'll be letting assets fall off before we replace them rather than proactively. If we were going to say we're picking a day and everything is going to switch to the new brand, then it would cost us $150,000 likely, or $250,000 depending on what assets we have. But that's not what we're doing. I think these cost estimates are just there as a comparator if we were to draw that line in the sand and say, moving forward, this is what we do. But a lot of those things like, the decals, we might come forward in a future budget and say, instead of, as we replace cars, replacing them, because I think right now we've got 2 or 3 different ones out there right now. We could come forward with a project and say we need $20,000 to redo all of our vehicles. So they're just really high level cost estimates, and they're based on communities that have done a complete rebrand and replaced everything. And whereas we're going to spend a lot more time on the marketing side of it and spread out the costs related to some of the other pieces. We have rugs downstairs with our brand on them. We would not rebrand that until that rug is due for replacement. So it's a lot less of a cost to the city.
Just clarification. So of the monies that we've already budgeted for, that money will pay for the billboards as well, like these ones on the highway. That's included. That type of marketing is included in that 156. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then going into 2022, 23, and 24, there will be more monies needed to be added. Is that correct?
there will be budget requests based on, so the research that we do between now and budget time on what we have, what needs to change, and what the costs are, we would be presenting those through future budget requests.
And has I'll call it a business plan been created as to what they're going to be as far as a marketing plan, as far as dollars? Because I've got some concerns as to what the plan is and what the overall cost of this is going to be over the 4-year period.
I'll have to let Ray answer this for sure, but I think the discussions that we've had to date are around giving council an understanding that there will be future costs, but we don't exactly know what those are right now. And as the team pulls together and says, okay, these are the things we need to be replaced when, then we can refine those budgets a little bit more clearly. Is that your understanding, Ray?
Yeah, just to clarify, so we have the budget that's set out for this year, 2021. The ongoing budget would have to be confirmed, but there's definitely there would be costs that would be associated, obviously, with rebranding, considering street signage, banners, all of the hard assets that we could have. Of course, there's going to be a budget that would need to be considered as we go forward. It's not, but at this point, I don't have the accurate estimate of what that would be.
Last question. So the monies that has been spent to date has just been to the, for the consultants. So around $35,000 is what we've spent so far on this project?
Correct. Yeah, through the chair. So the money spent to date would be the consulting fee for McKim, which was $30,000 plus the $7,500 for the proposed rebrand. And then council had approved the $156,000 for the marketing campaign, and that's what we're towards for the launch of June.
Thank you.
Councilor Nielsen.
Thank you. Through the chair to Audra. So as we talk about rebranding, could I get a perspective, please, on rebranding a community over 3 or 4 years versus rebranding and sort of a 1.5 year rebrand? What are the advantages? Well, I know one of the advantages of rebranding over 4 years is it costs less each year, but in terms of impact to selling what you're selling on your branding, is that seen negatively to rebrand over a long period of time or a longer period of time?
Because the objective is definitely to change the perception among largely like external audiences and draw more attention, draw tourism, to potentially draw new residents and new businesses. Those are assets that are ephemeral. It's marketing pieces. It's a website which is easily changed. We almost never recommend a huge investment in changing all of the hard assets. The one thing is your website, which Raylene's already accounted for in this year's budget, which needs to look and feel like the marketing campaign, because there needs to be a connection between the marketing pieces and where people land when they're looking for more information. There's an expectation that there may be a different logo on the sides of buildings, and when you drive into town, that's not vital. The day-to-day communications, we almost always recommend that it be replaced as they need to be. So just as you would replace an old piece of signage, or when you're installing a new piece of signage, like a board at a pool, or the new branding would go on that. So no, we do not see a problem with it taking, being done over time and being done strategically. And we almost always recommend that it be done that way so that it doesn't pose a problem financially.
Thank you, if I may. Continue. Through the chair to Raylene then. So following up on Councillor Billingsley's question with regard to understanding what those ongoing costs are going to be over a period of time. When do you envision that falling out in terms of strategizing? Or do we just decide each budget year we will do this portion of it, and then next year we have another budget discussion says we'll do this? Or is there going to be a plan to lay it out? Or are we going to piecemeal it?
There will definitely be a plan. I just haven't had the opportunity to look at all of the assets that we currently have that are branded and to figure out priority levels as to what needs to be rebranded or re-logoed for the upcoming years. And that would definitely be something that I look to do for the 2022 budget. And so that we have a better idea of what needs to be, what's priority for 2022 and onwards. I just don't have that information at this time.
No, understood, and thank you.
Councillor Hilger.
Through the chair to Sue. So for the 2022 budget, you're going to have to look at the replacement of all 4 entrance signs coming into Wetaskiwin. They will have to be redone. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Hilgertner, not necessarily. I think once administration has a chance to sit down and fully review all of the assets and what needs to be replaced when, we'll look at recommendations from McKim on what should be done first, and then we could bring those back to council.
This is going to be a huge process of re-signing all of our vehicles, signs. You know, I know the internet and stuff like that, that's easy, but now you're doing actually physical stuff. So this is going to be a huge project and a huge cost coming up for a budget for next year on this stuff. So that's something we'll have to take in consideration.
Not necessarily.
No, well, not me.
Yeah, I think that's why we were calling it a strategy as well. So it's a long-term, it is a long-term commitment, but it's not all up front.
Councillor Lindsay.
And I guess that's a little bit of my concern if that we're going to spend 156, which we've already approved, but we really don't have a plan of where the rest of it's going, and if we would, I won't say we would be throwing money away, but if we don't have the big picture of the rest of it, and I'm a little disappointed that we don't have a complete picture of what this is all about going forward. We're starting it, but we don't know where it's ending, and no plan along the way.
Through the chair to Councillor Billingsley, I mean, this is just part of a rebranding anyways. So especially in an election year, the next council is going to decide whether or not they want to support some of this, and then it will just mean that it rolls out a lot slower. There are things that are naturally going to fall off. Assets outlive their life cycle, and when they do, we will replace them at that pace. But I think this was one of the things that we identified. I mean, obviously, really early on, anytime you change your brand, it's going to cost money. It's just how long does it take to get there? And technically, each year, council is going to have an off ramp to say, no, we're not replacing those signs. The next council could come in and say, we're not replacing the signs until either they fail or they've lived their life cycle, and then we'll replace it then. It's not a great strategy, but it's certainly something that could happen.
The next council could come in and say they don't like this marketing campaign and completely change it and do a rebrand starting from October of 2021.
If there's one thing that I could jump into to emphasize is that part of the whole brand strategy was to have a strong foundation of our story. And I think a lot of what came out of the research that we heard is that currently we don't have, we have a story, but not a strong understanding of our story. And it also came out in some of the interviews and focus groups that I've been having that, and I'll bring it back to some of the signage that we have within our city is not accurate. So I think building a strong foundation and understanding of who and what Wetaskiwin is and where we're going is understanding our history and what we're trying to convey. So yes, there's going to be a cost, and we're understanding that, and that's why we're doing focus groups and all of this amazing work that we're doing. So it will take time, but just appreciating the work that's being done in the meantime. So thanks.
Anything further? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. We are going to break for supper. I stopped giving times. It's completely irrelevant. 8D, Centennial Park, present and future use of preliminary survey report. Welcome, Andrew.
Thanks, Your Worship and Council. I'm here to present the results of the survey that we conducted regarding Centennial Park. I want to start with a little bit of background. The reason that we did this survey is because of the business mix analysis that economic development had conducted in the end of last year, and the results of those were presented to the Committee of the Whole in January. So this Centennial Park was identified as one of the action items, kind of amidst a few other action items. And so I just wanted to highlight that we have started to tackle several of those. And so that is in attachment 3 of the item there. So just a bit of background on those. The analysis included a set of recommendations, and these were aimed at small and medium format retail types. So the analysis itself identified those as being one of the target areas to really focus on, as economic development particularly focuses on increasing the scope of business in the city. So under our current planning framework, that small and medium format retail type is identified mostly for the Denham Landing. However, there are some issues with that type of development going forward there, particularly that there are restrictive covenants in place which do prohibit quite a broad range of commercial uses there at Denham Landing. So the analysis presented a few other options. One of those was to approach the owners of Wetaskiwin Mall and look at what options there might be for redevelopment that would facilitate that small and medium format retail types of a more modern format. And the other option was to explore potential developments in other areas of the city, and the analysis identified Centennial Park as being one location that might be the best option for that. There are a couple benefits to that location. It's right at the entrance of the city if you're coming south on the highway. It's a large undeveloped area, and there is some servicing to it already. So that's why it was kind of identified as one of the potential options that could be an option. So why we did this consultation at this point, I want to highlight in Council's strategic plan under building the community there, that engaging often and early is one of the strategies that Council has identified. And so we really have taken on that strategy as a way to go forward in order to really identify what is the public interest with any issue. And so in this case, we thought, why don't we do this? This is probably a good time to get an initial sense of what would people be interested in as far as options regarding this piece of land. So since economic development has been, of course, a major talking point, a major priority for our community, we wanted to explore all the options that were presented in the business mix analysis. And so yeah, we have started pursuing all of those action items that are identified there for that small and medium business development. So we have opened conversations with the owners of Denham Landing, or at least the developer at this point. And I know economic development has had initial conversations with the mall as well. So we have started to tackle all of them because this is such a priority, economic development is. And so we want to make sure that we are exploring all the options that we can. Of course, that being said, the other priority or another main priority for the city is that we have excellent green spaces. And we do want to make sure that we are developing those, that we are maintaining them if they in the state they are in, and enhancing them where it is deemed that should be done. So as we looked at this action item, of course, there has been so much study done lately with this big business mix analysis, for one thing. Lots of information that we've looked at recently as far as ways to tackle the economic side of things and business development. But we actually don't have that much information as far as the green space and how do people use the parks in the city. And so this is why we wanted to do this consultation right now, because as we looked at this item, we realized a lot of questions came up. What do we know about the usage of Centennial Park? Is it underutilized? Is it overutilized? What would the public's opinion be when it came to commercial or mixed use development here? Especially considering that we've heard a lot that people do want economic development. So what we really want to know is, what does that mean? It's easy to say we want to develop business in the city, but when the rubber hits the road, what actually is the public interest there? And so we wanted to know, does that look like developing park space within the city? So I just want to highlight kind of the legislative background and some of the technical details surrounding this park. So it is actually the it's one of the municipal reserve lots for that subdivision, and it is registered as such. And so if it was going to be developed, if that was the direction that this was going to take, of course, there would need to be a public hearing to dispose of that municipal reserve designation. And any proceeds from selling the land would need to be spent on other parks in the city. And so if this park was going to be removed from the reserve designation and developed, that means that any resources, essentially any park resources that we would that are represented by dollars there would be used for other parks in the city. So there's no net loss of park resources for the city, but of course, in this particular neighborhood and location, there would be a change to the park amenities. So the survey itself. So the survey was open from March 31st to April 12th of this year. The survey was posted on the city's Have Your Say webpage. So it was advertised via social media. It was advertised on the website. And I have a feeling that it was advertised and notified. A lot of that was done via word of mouth. So what we heard, here's the good stuff. So the majority of respondents, jumping right to it, the majority were not in favor of selling and disposing of the land, about 75%. There were options within the survey to sell. One of the options presented was, how do you feel about selling all of the land, or would you how would you feel about selling a portion of the land and maintaining a portion of it as parkland? So those who are in favor of selling some of the land came to 11.6%, and selling all came to 12.7%. So I just want to jump down into the analysis a little bit because I'm a survey nerd and I love this stuff. It's very interesting. So one of the highlights that I love about this is that we had 636 responses, which is about 5% of the city's population, which is incredible. It's an incredible response for public consultation. So that was really awesome. I was excited to see that. And I hope that it continues as we go forward, doing our MDP redo and that kind of thing. So it's nice to see that there are a lot of people engaged. Top 3 age demographics. The top age demographic that responded, I think it was about 30%, was the 30 to 45 age range, next being 46 to 65. And so those two demographics made up about 70% of respondents to this. We did ask how people get there. And so the majority of visitors to the park actually got there on foot. I think it was about 51%, just over 50%. So that's very interesting to see. We did advertise directly to those residences. We sent mail outs directly to those within 400 meters of the park to try to capture the opinions of those who do live within about a 5-minute walking distance. So we can see that a lot of those folks did respond to this, and they get there that way. Many people also drive. So the next largest response was that people drove there. So that does indicate that this is a park that is of interest to more than just the immediate walking distance residents. It actually is a park that people do drive to from around the city. The majority of residents said they visit the park about 3 to 10 times a year. And the majority were 3 to 10 times. Next frequent was more than 10 times. We asked what of the specific amenities people enjoyed while they were there. The skating trails were a very popular one. We also asked about the amenities regardless of the skating trails, since those could be relocated. So most people, the majority of people, say they appreciate that park just because it is an open space and a green space. People also enjoy walking their pets there, and I think a lot of that probably does also include just the enjoyment of being in an open space with your pet. But it does represent a place where people can go to walk their pets. There are basketball hoops there. There aren't that many in the city, and this is one of the locations, and so those were identified as being an amenity that people used quite a bit. So yes, and the really exciting question. So we had 552 surveys that answered the 3 options to either sell the entire thing, don't sell any of it, or sell a portion of it. And so 75% chose to not sell it, leave it as it is. 12.7% chose sell all of it, and 11.6% chose sell a portion. Now, we wanted to know the really interesting and useful information here really was why. Why do you either not want to sell it or sell it? And so we did ask that people include that people were able to free type their responses. And so many of the comments that were from those who are not in favor of selling it can be summarized firstly, that folks were concerned that we'd be losing green space. And so, of course, green space is a very important aspect of the city. The second kind of summary of concerns would be that there are already many areas in the city that are designated for commercial and residential development. So Centennial Park shouldn't be prioritized for that at this time. The third comment is that developing this land would increase traffic, noise, and increase the taxes in the area in that neighborhood. Comments in favor of selling and developing either all or a portion of this land. Many folks said that economic development is really important. There were quite a few comments that noted that this is probably a good location for some type of development, whether it be commercial or mixed use or higher density residential because of its location. And that it would be beneficial to spend money in other parks around the city. So administration did put together just some brief responses to the main concerns, just to provide some context and hopefully ensure that we are on the same page and speaking the same language about these things. And so as far as that first concern, that green space is a very important aspect of the city, and the concern that this would be a reduction of green space, I do want to point out that it is provincial legislation that any proceeds that come from the sale of this would be used for other parks. So there really is no risk of this money being spent on other things. That being said, we certainly do recognize that green space should be prioritized and should be prioritized spatially so that it is distributed amongst neighborhoods properly, so that there is green space within every neighborhood. Of course, there should be green space within walking distance of ideally everyone's home. And so that is a really important consideration. So of course, administration shares this concern that green space is very important. And so we do intend to do more investigation as far as parks planning and consultation and that kind of thing going forward. As far as the concern that there are many areas in the city that are already designated for this type of development, we do recognize this as well. And I just want to take it back to the action items that have been identified and that we are pursuing those already. And so, yes, the areas, particularly Denham Landing and Wetaskiwin Mall, we are looking at those other options already. So I think really at this point, it's a question of how do we prioritize those action items? Which ones are going to be achievable and what kind of time scale will those be achieved in? Finally, developing this land would increase traffic, noise, and increase taxes in the area. It is true that probably developing this area would increase traffic. However, we would absolutely be requiring a traffic impact assessment be done, and that any development, it would be on the developer to mitigate any traffic impacts, and particularly with noise and things like that. As far as our next steps on this really was just a preliminary survey, really just to get a sense of what direction should be taken in this case. And so our recommendation to council is right now just to accept this report as information. And then any next steps regarding these lands will be left entirely up to council based on the feedback that we've received on this survey. So I am happy to answer any questions.
Councilor Billingsley.
I move that City Council accepts the report as information.
Moved by Councilor Billingsley. Any discussion? Councilor Nielsen.
This is just a clarification. We've had some recent conversations about what receiving reports for information actually consists of. So I guess the clarity that I'm looking for is if we receive it for information, does that then say to administration, I don't know how to put it, do what you want. I don't mean it like that, but or does it mean it's information we got and we put it on the shelves kind of a response?
Yeah. Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, if you look at the first page of the RFD, the alternate motions indicate what other actions could be taken. So this truly is receive it as information. If we do not get any other direction, this does not go any further.
Councillor Hilgerder. So then, in other words, if we approve this as information, it's dead in the water? Okay, thank you.
Anything else? So some of the comments that I've heard from the public was, why would we sell a park to get development? Why can't we get Denham Landing or the field across the street or the empty buildings on Main Street, have those filled up? Well, we can't control what other property or landowners are doing with their land, but we can control what's going on with ours. And we wouldn't be changing anything until it's sold. So it would remain a park. An area structure plan would be done. And I think that with a better understanding of what that green space would look like with the addition of some commercial development there, may or may not, probably not change the minds of those that live in the neighborhood. But for as long as I've been on council, I've heard that we're the city in slow motion or the city in no motion. We don't get any new development. We can't attract any new investment. And then when we bring an idea for public consultation, it's shot down. So it makes things a little bit difficult to be a member of council, to want to grow a city, to help attract investment when people want change, but just not that, something else. So as Andrew had said, the sale of the land doesn't go into general revenue. It's used to build a new park or improve existing, which could include the improvement of Centennial Park, basketball nets, build a toboggan hill, like all of the things that we could do with the additional green space there. And then the concerns about liquor stores, pawn shops, and cannabis retail shops there, which wouldn't fit in the land use bylaw for that anyways, being so close to residential.
That's
So
right.
Sorry,
that's right. Yeah.
I would like to see administration have an area structure plan on what that could look like and what the green space would look like and what they wouldn't be losing in terms of green space, how we could make that park better, whether we built a true toboggan hill, had a nice set of basketball nets there or a court there. The other things that we could have there, we don't have to develop it or design it where we would lose the community billboards, all of the fears that the neighborhood has, to work with them while we try to move the city forward in terms of attracting investment and development. And then who knows, maybe the piece of land across the street from that sees development, sees an opportunity, and now we've got more development instead of being the first one to take a shot at it. So that's what I would like to see happen, but I hear the concerns from the neighborhood loud and clear. Anything else? Councilor Lonsdale.
I agree, sir. And here again, this is one of those touchy situations where we've heard from the community, but we've also, as you mentioned, we've heard from the community for many, many years that we have had no commercial growth, anything. And so trying to outweigh these, I do not really want to accept this as information and just see it put on a shelf. I would like to get some more information. And as you say, if there's somebody who's interested in being there, I'd like to see that site plan. And as to how much green space we can leave. And also with money going to another green space, I think that's something that we really need to look at because yeah, we've heard from a lot of people and I do believe a lot of people in the survey are probably some of the people that have come at us for the last 30 to 40 years that nothing ever happens here. So this is, I would like to see more information.
Councilor Bellinger. Oh, sorry, I had Councilor Hogarth and Councilor Bellinger.
Through the chair to Andrew. So what type of retail could go in there other than a gas station?
It could be a wide variety of things. It is a parcel that's big enough to have, it could be mixed use. For example, like retail on the first floor, ground floor, and have a couple stories of residential on top. So there are quite a few options. And considering that there isn't an area structure plan for that area or anything, there are a lot of options.
So
I believe, sorry, yeah.
Then a gas station, we could have like a mini little strip mall with a beauty parlor, maybe a doctor's clinic.
Yeah.
And something like that. That's what you're looking at zoning that sort of area for.
Yeah.
That would be the target. So in doing that, in the road structure area, setting that up, we would have to also implement probably lights going on Highway 2A off that intersection if you're putting retail there, correct?
Well,
So
that's
would that be
exactly,
all included into it?
That's exactly why we'd require a TIA, a traffic impact assessment, to determine those things. Because it really does, the amount of traffic does depend on what the final use is. And so we'd require a TIA. And if there are lights that go in, that's something that we can look at cost sharing with the developer or provide or requiring offsite levies. So yeah, we would certainly ensure that safety is upheld, and then we would figure out how that can be paid for.
Thank you.
I don't believe we've had zero growth over the last 40 years. I don't think that's a fair statement to say. I do believe that there is potential and I would like to see growth. But I also see a whole lot of privately owned real estate that is underdeveloped. And I don't understand why you would take a green space and sell that off when there's lots of property that is unoccupied, whether it is downtown, whether it's on the auto mall, whether it's across from the rodeo ground. There's lots of land available. Why would you give up green space to do it? The people in Centennial, which I am one of them, obviously have vested interest in keeping that park. Whereas somebody who lived in Parkside would probably never use that park, right? Having said that, I would never use the park in Parkside, and would it be okay if we got rid of that park and put a max convenience store there? Would you be okay with that? Spring Grove. Right. Right. But it's growth. We'd be eliminating the park for growth. Much of a difference? Right? And so that's where I'm at with this. And that's why I want to accept it as that.
Unfortunately, I think we missed a great opportunity at the onset. Because as best I understand, the question is, should we consider selling the property without a lot of vision around what it could be like? And I think that may have impacted the results we got, understandably. But the piece that I don't understand is right across the road, there's that same larger piece of land that could be acquired, I guess, if the owner was willing to sell it. So I wonder about the cost of the land to a potential developer. Is it cheaper to buy land from the city than it is for a private landowner across the road? And if that's the case, why is that the case? So as much as I don't think we did necessarily a great job asking the questions and providing some kind of vision of what that area could look like in maintaining the park, I really question why this piece of property is seen to be so much more valuable than everywhere else in town.
And I think maybe part of the confusion maybe is that we don't have a deal on that piece of land. Administration was directed by council to look at opportunities that we could have development in the city. We can't control over what the landowner across the street is doing with that property, whether it's even for sale or not. We can control the land that we have, and we do have the ability to entertain offers on our land. So I think being proactive and looking at potential sites that development could occur is a great job on our administration's part. We can argue until we're blue in the face on how it was done or whether it was done properly, and hindsight's 2020. It could have done this or we could have done that. But if we've tasked our administration, especially our economic development team, on trying to find or identify areas for growth, and then they do, and then we had a motion at the last meeting or the meeting before to not even get a report back. I guess I struggle with what is it that we're actually looking for? Do we want growth unless it affects you directly? Or do you want growth if it fits into what you feel is the appropriate place for development to happen? I've heard from more than the residents or the neighborhood of Centennial saying that they want to see growth. And I totally understand why somebody in Parkside wouldn't want a corner store at their park, or why Centennial doesn't want a development at their green space. So we continue to fight this battle of, I want all of these great things, but just don't let it affect me, and then we'll be okay. So I struggle with a little bit of that. Councilor Bronco.
Thank you. I struggle with a lot of things. We asked administration to do a survey. We did the survey. 75% says no. When are we going to listen to the public? Why do we have survey and consulting? When we have a result, then we say no. Next one, we're coming up to election. Maybe if the people don't elect different people, we're going to say no, we don't want them. We're going to do this. The people are speaking no. That was a survey we did. We paid. Why do we keep saying we listen to you? No, we're not. Whatever comes in here, we do whatever we want and screw the taxpayer. Give them I better keep my mouth shut. But anyways, the people have spoken. We did a survey. Let's do it. What the heck is going on? And people are telling us what to do. Maybe they don't want that. But 75%. So why do we ask for people to give their opinion when you turn around, flush it down the toilet? I don't know. 75% to me say no. So I'll accept this as information.
And I will point out that we have been on the receiving end of many surveys and many directions in the 7 years I've been on council with you, Councilor Bronco, and you haven't always voted for what the survey dictated. you voted in favor of what was in the best interest of the community or what you felt was the best interest of the community. So be really careful on how you pigeonhole something when you've done the opposite. Because I take offense to that you take a shot.
And I take offense because I've been here for 11 years. And
Sorry.
just the
No, I
people
said
here-
the seven years that I've been on council with you.
The people have voted, let's vote for it. We all have our freedom to speak. But the people
Councillor
here, don't-
Billingsley,
but
go
don't
ahead.
come out and say it.
Councillor Billingsley, go ahead. Anyone else? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Opposed?
Sorry, could you do that again?
Ready for the question? Those in favor? Opposed?
In favor of information or opposing it?
The motion on the floor is to be taken as information.
Thank you.
Ready for the question? Those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Carried. Item 8E, 2021 municipal election returning officer.
I will be speaking for Karen as she has no mic tonight. So it is required that municipalities appoint returning officers. At the December 14th, 2020 meeting, council passed a motion appointing myself as the returning officer until we had time to post for that position. We have now done that and have signed a contract with Hassan Ahmed, and he would be our returning officer. And so we are asking City Council to appoint him as our official returning officer for the election on October 18th, 2021.
Perfect. Entertain a motion, Councillor Hillgardner.
I move that the city council appoints Hassan Aman as returning officer to the 2021 municipal election for the city of Wetaskiwin.
Moved by Councillor Hillgardner. Any discussion? As we've entered into a contract, if we did not appoint him as returning officer,
We always have termination clauses within our contracts, and then I would be the returning officer.
sorry, you would be the returning officer?
Yes, I would.
Oh, okay then. Oh, good.
We had this discussion before. Nobody really wants that to happen.
Anything else? Ready for the question? Those in favor? Carried unanimously. You're welcome. Off the hook. Where are we?
For now.
Item 8F, the open door agreement. Councilor Nielsen.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to make a motion and I'd like to speak to it, if I could, please. My motion is I move that council directs administration to provide Open Door a 90-day lease termination date as per the lease agreement. I move that council directs administration to provide Open Door a 90-day lease termination date as per the lease agreement. And bear with me, please, folks. What a sad day this is for our community. Instead of groups pulling together, we're pulling apart. Sad that the communications that this motion is sparking should have taken place months ago and didn't. Sad that when businesses and residents asked for a timeline for a relocation, we couldn't, for a number of reasons, provide a definitive answer, leaving an awful lot of ambiguity. Most of the information that I have personally received as a counselor on this topic has come from the RCMP or the Open Door and our city administration and the emails and phone calls that I have received. So to better inform myself, I decided to conduct a survey, Joe. I decided to interview downtown businesses and organizations to get a better sense of what the downtown was experiencing as a result of the Open Doors location. I will provide all the data to each counselor and administration when I'm finished. I put together 5 questions and an open-ended question. I've tried to be fair and balanced in the questions. So the first question I asked was, have you or your business been impacted with the Open Doors Integrated Hub's location at the Civic Building? No impact, 2 people. Positive impact, 3 people. Negative impact, 25. 83% said it was negative. So I said, please share your experience. No, it's been great because people now have a place to go. Vagrancy has been reduced because people now have a place to call home. Besides graffiti and garbage, we have people defecating and having sex around my building. Lots of seniors who were regulars will not come into my store now. I've had a loss of sales and an increase in theft. Bank customers are harassed for money when clients leave the bank. My staff are very fearful coming to and leaving work. 8 times that was reported to me. You have to be on high alert. Who is coming into your store? When you take garbage to the dumpsters, you have to watch vulnerable people in your store. Scared for personal safety while I'm at work. Question number 2. Have you had to change business practices or procedures as a result of the Integrated Hub's location? 8 respondents, no changes necessary. 22 respondents say, yes, I've had to make changes in my business practices. That's 73%. What changes were implemented? I got multiple comments about locking doors of businesses, having to create buddy systems established for arriving to and leaving work, security cameras and more exterior lighting, not parking in the back of my business, having to escort clients to and from their vehicles, and I have to start each day cleaning up in front and behind my business. More products are having to be placed behind barriers. I'm not comfortable going back to work in the evening, 3 times. Hiring security personnel to ensure the safety for customers and staff, 2 times. Third question, there has been increased RCMP CPO foot patrols in the downtown area. Have they had an impact on safety in the area? No impact, 2. Positive impact, 20 who said yes, and 3 who said yes, no. And the yes, no was yes, but we've seen a decrease lately in the foot patrols. So 92% of the people responded very positively about foot patrols. Their comments, it's definitely been positive. We would like to see more. They've dropped into my business on numerous occasions to see how things are going. Both the RCMP and CPOs have been fantastic. The vulnerable population sees them and they scatter, only to return after they have finished their patrols. I haven't seen them nearly as frequently in the last few weeks. Do you believe that the location of the integrated hub has had impact on your foot traffic into your business? 9 businesses said no. 1 said it's a positive impact, I've increased sales. A negative impact, 17% 17 people said it was a negative impact, for 62.9% saying they've had an impact on foot patrol. Please share your experience. Most of my clients are appointment-based, so they still show up. Not sure I can put the blame totally on Hub, as COVID has also impacted. My senior traffic has been reduced by about 40 to 50% monthly. Customers say they drive by, and if it looks safe, they will come in. But if there are vagrants hanging around, they leave. They go elsewhere or come back later. Regular early morning or late evening customers are not coming at those hours because the vulnerable population is hanging around my store at those hours. Downtown shoppers are reporting to the businesses. They're always scanning to ensure their safety. And then the last question I asked was, have your feelings or perceptions of downtown Wetaskiwin changed since the integrated hub opened in the Civic Building? Yes, they've changed positively, 1 person. Yes, they have changed negatively, 23, 79%. And 5 said no change in my perceptions. The comments, absolutely not. It is still a great downtown. I'm very proud of the folks involved at the hub. Everyone needs a place to call home. I never would have purchased a property on Main Street knowing what I'm experiencing today. I couldn't give my property away. Who would consider opening a business downtown with all this going on? After all the money we spent on Main Street to revitalize it is now a ghetto. Our house is for sale. I have 2 teenage daughters that started elementary school in Wetaskiwin. They can't even walk to Tim's without being concerned for their safety. They're currently in grade 11 and 12. We are moving back to Calgary after living in Wetaskiwin since elementary school. The lease is up. My lease is up in a year, and I'm reconsidering not renewing it. I lived on Queen Street in Toronto and downtown Vancouver and never seen so much open alcohol and drug use. There's a blatant blind eye by council that downtown businesses don't matter. Many businesses on Main Street have been here for decades, have been the backbone of the community. Now we don't seem to count. The community is losing its downtown streets to a vulnerable possible gang population. We're now starting to see gang tagging on buildings. More people appear to be wearing colors. Comment I got was, check out Google and shoes hanging from power poles, and then look at the alley behind the hub. And I did that. The hub is nothing but a flop house for many. How can people want to get help? How can people who want to get help get it with so many who don't appear to want the help? And then the last question I asked was really open-ended. I said, can you give me a personal story or experience that you'd like to share with me? And again, I'm a person who sees the long-term vision and don't want to get caught up with the little bumps in achieving the long-term goal. Dr. Badawi is a Wetaskiwin OB-GYN who actually wanted to be identified. He sees patients from all over central Alberta. Pregnant women arriving to his clinic have been harassed, been given rude and crude hand gestures, crudely commented to about their obvious pregnancy. One vagrant dropped his pants at the patient when they came into the clinic. He said they now get to return to their communities to talk about their Wetaskiwin experience. Dr. Badawi also has students from the U of A who take training and do practicum settings at his clinic. The U of A has contacted him to express concern for their students staying in Wetaskiwin. 2 downtown business employees from different businesses commented that they had worked in South Wetaskiwin businesses for a combined 12 years. Between the 2 of them, they worked in 3 businesses, the food industry, the liquor industry, and a convenience store. They reported that they knew the vulnerable population from past years, and currently this is not the same population they experienced at the south end of town. This population, according to them, is much younger and way more aggressive or intimidating. 2 businesses reported that between COVID and Hub, they felt they had between 40 to 60 days before they would likely have to close. I'd like to repeat, they don't view that solely as a Hub's responsibility. They also view that COVID's had a bearing on that. Please bear with me. 2 different businesses indicate they're considering letting their leases lapse when they come due this year. Another different business is considering relocation to another community. A local liquor store reported vodka theft at $918.16 in the month of April and indicated that loss did not include single serves or other alcoholic beverages. It was reported that they're not even sneaky about their thefts. They just come in and help themselves and run out. We are not allowed to intervene for our own safety. Drugstores reported to me that theft is up. One store says that the theft is small electronics and gravel. And I thought gravel was behind counters. But while another said it was curling irons and flat irons. When I asked about that, they said they thought it was used for heating or cooking drugs. Company policy is to report the incidences and not to intervene for their personal safety. A person under the influence arrives at a business and walks straight through the business into a back office. It took 2 RCMP and 1 security person to wrestle this person out of my office and onto the floor for arresting. The business was informed this was a Category 5 person with mental health and other issues, including aggressiveness. 3 different businesses reported that in dealing with vagrants that they had suggested the person go to the hub. All 3 were told that the hub is too dangerous, especially at night. We have people hanging around our business all day and night having sex and drinking. Some have even shown up with large tools and cutters to cut down the fence behind our business. And lastly, a local business recruited a weekend receptionist from another community. When the owner and the receptionist parked in the back alley around 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning, there was a big barbecue party going on down at the hub. Music, open drinking, and a man standing on a fence and urinating towards the group. The receptionist's comment was, "This can't be where you work." And I will share that, all of that information with you. In closing, I know that there are very strong feelings about, excuse me. In closing, I know there are very strong feelings about supporting our vulnerable population. But from my interviews, I question whether we don't have more than one group of vulnerable population. Certainly those that the hub is serving, but also those businesses, employees, and shoppers who are also feeling very vulnerable every day. Worrying for their safety, worrying about their sales and staying in business, worrying about simple everyday activities like going to the bank, getting groceries, getting to a barber or a salon, and getting to their doctor's appointments to deal with their medical issues, which might even include their daily fears and anxieties that they're experiencing in this community. I think these people deserve to be heard, acknowledged, and cared about. And I also think that the vulnerable population needs to be heard, acknowledged, and cared about as well. I've been asked, I think we've all been asked, how long will they have to endure this situation? And I think we've all been too silent on this issue, and I use the collective we. I think we includes city. I think we includes Open Door. I think we includes the RCMP. I think we includes downtown businesses and residents. We've all been silent on this. And the last thing I guess I would say, I don't know where this conversation and this motion is going to go. If it is passed, I do know that many of the people who I talked to, pardon me, are hoping to see a positive end result. And that positive end result is not just kicking the vulnerable population to the curb, but a positive end result is that something positive can come out of this for our community, but not at the risk of losing their health, their income, safety for their employees and for themselves, or their business. I hope this motion and discussion will provide some clarity for everybody. Thank you. I stand down.
Moved by Councillor Nielsen. Any discussion? Councillor Alonso.
Thank you, Councillor Nielsen. And I really respect what you have done. And in my own little way, not nearly as much as yourself, I have been involved and see things and have been asked to do things. And I've been out there and seen both sides of everything. And as I say, as I want to save my downtown, I have stopped and talked to the people at the Open Door on picnic tables basically every Saturday and Sunday morning, just to get an idea as to what they are going through as well. I have had some really bad things said to me. Being a lifelong resident here, I have a lot of people that get a hold of me, and I understand some of the great work that is going on, but I also understand what is happening to my downtown. And it's not like I haven't been down there and I haven't seen it. I have. And you know what, this is so hard because I believe of the good work that is being done. And I think we can talk to Keith and Jessica and Sue and everybody. We all know this isn't the best place to be. Now, I don't know if we make this decision that another 90 days, we can work together as well to try to find a better solution. But as of right now, I think that is the best solution right now. And believe me, I am willing to work day and night with anybody to try to find a better place. And by doing this, I guess it maybe forces our hand more than anybody to be able to step in and try to help. And I know it sounds like it's kind of a backwards way to do this, but here again, it's a survey that you did, Wayne, and I've been out and done a little bit, but not near as much as you. And I hear my community. So, but like I say, I am willing to work with anybody to make this a better solution. So, thank you.
Councillor Billingsley.
Difficult is right. Councillor Nielsen, thank you very much for taking that extra step to gain a little bit of knowledge and passing it on to us. Having said all of this, like you say, you can emphasize, or can't emphasize enough how important it is to help that vulnerable population, but at what cost? And my big concern in all of this is whether it's downtown, whether it's at the old muffler shop, whether it's behind Walmart, whether it's at the end of Centennial Drive. In other words, it doesn't matter the location. Would we have the same problem anywhere? And if we're willing as a council or as a community to accept that, to help out the vulnerable population. Because if the business plan of Open Door is the same at a new location, why do we think that things are going to be different? Just due to the location. So if you believe that the plan going forward in any location is going to be the same, please don't expect different results as far as outside of the walls, because that should be or will be the same. And we as a council have to decide, one, do we want to fund it? And two, do we want to accept it? And that's something we're going to have to wrestle.
Thank you, Councillor Nielsen, for doing the report. I've been struggling with this at several meetings. I've been asked the question about the outside, and I know that the outside is our problem. What happens inside is the hub's problem. But I have seen month after month the deterioration of control. And when it comes down to our taxpayers, families, visitors that have to endure what's going on downtown, I feel the council has to take control of that. And that's what's going to persuade my vote, because we lost control.
Councilor Watts.
As with the others, thank you to Councillor Nielsen for providing us the information that you've gathered. I have worked in healthcare for going on 7 years now. I've seen some horrible incidents in my career, and many of these are burned into my memory. The vulnerable population that utilize the hospitals in any city deal with mental health issues, attempted suicides, overdoses, assaults, and many other situations that are unfathomable to most people. In a city like ours with limited resources, we treat the issues that people come in for, and we are restricted on what services we can offer once they leave, as most treatment options are outside of our city and away from their support systems. The emergency department in any rural area dealing with the vulnerable population has been a revolving door, giving treatment, releasing them, and having them come back because they aren't getting the help that they need. With the city historically constantly opening and closing shelters, we are a closing door. We open with the intention of helping our most vulnerable, but we've never had resources available to them. We house them for a few months out of the winter and then close, putting these people back out onto the streets again. Last time we closed with snow on the ground and putting people back out into the frigid temperatures. When Camera's Open Door came to our city, they had a plan to house our vulnerable population and provided resources to them. That way, we aren't a revolving door or a closing door. We're an open door. We bring the people in who need the resources, get them the help they need mentally and physically, with hopes that one day these people will no longer need these resources. To me, I can't stomach seeing 250 people who desperately need these resources be told, we have 90 days to find you a new space, and if we fail you. The resources won't be there. You're back out on the streets. As a healthcare worker first, I can't see people who have severe mental and physical health issues, who finally have hope for the first time in their life, be told that this might be the end for them, jeopardizing 6 months of hard work from various organizations coming together and potentially having no new location is unethical for people who need these resources. We all know that the hub is in the wrong location. We all want it to move, and in the meantime, we need to find ways to make it a safer place, because whether it's within the 90 days or outside of the 90 days, we still have a duty to make it a safer place. And we need to come up with a plan for that, which is what we're working on with the Hub Task Force and trying to come up with new ideas. I think we do have an absolute duty to our downtown to keep them safe and to keep the people inside the hub safe. And I don't think that those should be two opposing options. I think that we need to come together on this and try to come up with ways that we can make it an even safer place. And that might be looking outside the box on what we have already done. I don't think that putting 90 days on this is feasible, because we've had 5 months to look for a new location. We had months before that to look for a new location, and we're struggling. And putting 90 days on it isn't going to put heat on the government to give us more funding. It's not going to help anything in the event that what happens if we find land but we need to build? What happens if we find a building but it needs renovations? And in the meantime, we're panicking trying to move these people into a new location. I can't stomach the idea that 250 people who are receiving medication, receiving mental health services, receiving any sort of health care right now may not have those resources in 90 days if we fail them. That's all I got.
Anyone else? Being on council is hard. We have an entire city full of residents and businesses looking to us to improve the city. We are at a fork in the road with the ability to make a huge change in our city. For decades, we have dealt with or ignored the growing issues of mental health and addictions. The issues we're seeing downtown aren't new, they're in a new area. In years previous, we've had committees struck to deal with loitering, public drinking and drug use, aggressive panhandling, public intoxication, people passed out, people dead. In my years as a funeral director and a firefighter, I've not only seen firsthand the issues our community face, I've worked it. I've helped EMS load a patient into the back of the air ambulance. I've administered Narcan. I've done CPR. I've helped the RCMP arrest people who are passed out and not cooperating. And I've also transferred dead people back to the morgue and up to the medical examiner's office. Rarely does that get talked about. I haven't talked to a single person who thinks the hub is in the right spot. And if I'm being honest, there isn't one. I've been told I get defensive when the hub is talked about or discussed. I'm not defensive. I'm frustrated. I get frustrated when temporary solutions are suggested, but not worked on. I get frustrated hearing comments like, this is how it's always been, and this is how it's always going to be. I get frustrated when there's a circle of placing blame and finger pointing, but not a lot of problem solving or solutions. The hub is doing what we need it to do. People are getting the medical attention that they need, as well as the supports for mental health and addiction. Before we give up on something that is working, let's continue to work on solutions. We can hire security. We've already increased patrols. Work with the hub on expectations. This isn't going to work if we're not working together. Fund ATCO trailers to move the hub. For basing decisions today on an election in 5 months, then we aren't doing our jobs. Our job is to leave the city better than we found it, not ensure we get reelected. Closing the hub moves the problem again. Anything else? Councillor Blatz.
Aside from me, obviously not being in agreement with the 90-day lease termination, I would hope that if we didn't go through with that, that we would still use that urgency to try and find a new location, because obviously we do need that new location, but I don't think that putting a timestamp on it is going to be what's going to do it. And unless the city is willing to have a final backup plan, which is that we'll fund it in worst case scenario, I can't see how this is an option.
Councillor Willingly.
I guess my concern is it isn't the city's responsibility to find a location. It's the Open Doors responsibility to find a new location. Now, certainly we will help them, but this isn't up to us. We can only approve it. This is not our business plan. This is not our business. We're helping fund it and hopefully help some of the vulnerable population. But it isn't on us. It's on them.
I disagree 100%. This is absolutely a city issue. We've got a decades-old problem of everything that I listed off before: public intox, aggressive panhandling, loitering, whatever else has been going on in the city. Like I said, communities were struck trying to find a solution for it. The issues that we're seeing downtown are very similar to the issues that we saw in the south end of town. And with the hub closure and not finding a new location to work on the treatment, we're going to go back to the same problem. And it's going to be a city problem again. It's going to be RCMP resources dealing with that. It's going to be hospital resources dealing with that. It's going to be your fire service dealing with medical assists and medical responses to that. It is absolutely a city issue. And I'm not okay with how it was 4 years ago before the emergency shelter was set up. I wasn't okay with it 6.5 months ago when we didn't have anything in place and the open door wasn't operating. I agree 100%. That is not the location. I spoke to no end saying that the last place that I want a shelter or the hub was to be back at the Civic Building. Situation out of my control. The zoning change wasn't approved for a building on the south end of town. Whatever, that's nothing you can do about it now.
Do you think, Tyler, that if Open Door was in the Muffler building and that happened, that everything would be good?
No.
We wouldn't be having these discussions, the same discussions today?
We wouldn't be having these discussions because the Open Door would be operating completely separate of the city and not working out of the city building.
But that's not.
We had all of these issues, the public talks, everything that was going on, aside from the parties with the music and picnic tables set up. We had all of these issues going on the south end of town. These aren't new issues. They're in a new place. So if we're not willing, or sorry, if we are willing to go back to the way that it was 6.5 months ago, and then through the spring and summer and fall months when the emergency shelter wasn't open the 2 winters previous, then we terminate the lease and hope that the Open Door finds a new place to operate, because we're going to go back to the same problem. And just because that's the way it's always been, isn't the way that I operate. I would rather do something to try to have an improvement rather than being okay with the south side not being as vocal because they're used to dealing with the stuff that's been going on downtown. Councilor Blatz.
I have an issue with saying that this isn't the city's responsibility to find a new location. It is the Open Doors responsibility to find a new location. It contradicts something that Councillor Lonsdale said, in the sense that he said that he would love to try to find any option available and will work day in and day out to try and find that new option. If I had the confidence that we would find that option, maybe this would be a different story for me. But I don't have that confidence that we will be backing them 100% to try and find that new location, because we're still divided on it no matter how this vote goes. They need a new location and we wanted them here. We wanted them to help us with this issue. We've had this vulnerable population issue with no resources and no funding for so long. And we finally have an agency that has come in here. They know exactly what they're doing. They're seeing so many good things come from this. And we're telling them, hey, we're going to close you down, but we're also not going to help you find a new location. That is unfathomable to me.
And I guess for me, if we back up to when we talked about an Open Door, and I don't know exactly how it worked, if they came to us or we came to them, but it was really started off as an emergency shelter, and they could provide other services. When the conversation started with Open Door, what they have now, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, that's not what I envisioned back in September of last year. It was an emergency shelter, but they also could provide other services. And now it's become a total integrated hub. So, and it's their business plan. It wasn't our plan to, okay, we want to do this, 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 and that. They provided, it was their business plan to us. So, in my opinion, yeah, it's on them to find a location. We're not in the AHF business.
No, we're in community safety business, so.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? Councilor Blatz.
I get that we're not in that kind of business, but at the same time though, for me, I can't sleep at night knowing that I may have displaced people that need a house. I don't care if it's warm outside. I don't care if it's cold outside. These people need homes. These people live in our community, they reside in our community. Whether or not they were originally from our community or not, it doesn't matter. These people are out there, they're suffering, they're going through so many difficulties right now that we're potentially robbing them of any chance of them getting hope and the help that they need. I could not sleep at night knowing that I had the opportunity to change that for 250 people and that chance went away because I said it's not my problem, because it is our problem. We're leaders in this community and we're leaders for whoever lives in our community. Doesn't matter if they pay taxes, doesn't matter if they're homeless in this community. They're our responsibility. They're human lives. And no matter what happens with this vote, that's something that's going to keep me up at night. Is the fact that we had an opportunity to change the lives of so many people, and we sat here saying it's not our problem.
Councilor Nielsen.
I guess the question for me is, I totally agree that it's our issue. It's in our community, and so it can't be ignored. Having said that, the ultimate responsibility, where our province has indicated through the way they've set themselves up and the ministries they've created, health, addictions, those things are provincial mandates. And as a result of that, I don't believe it's the taxpayers' responsibility to solve the problem by themselves. And I'm not suggesting that other people haven't contributed, because obviously when Jessica has reported the kinds of funding and so forth that she's received, there's lots of money operationally. But the very ministries that are charged with the responsibility of looking after the mental health and addictions of the residents of this province do not appear, as long as we're looking after the problem, to want to have a conversation about a long-term solution in our community. And ultimately, it is my belief that is Alberta Health and Mental Health that is responsible for ensuring safety programs, places, and practices for this population. Absolutely our issue, but not absolutely our responsibility singly. Thank you.
Anything else? Ready for the question. Those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councilor Bronco, can you take chair, please?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I move that we go into a closed session.
No. No. You're taking chair. I've got a follow-up motion.
Oh. Yes. Tyler, Daniel, please.
I move that council direct administration to bring back costs on the purchase or lease of ATCO trailers to move the hub to a better location. I guess the costs associated with that as well, sorry. Costs on the purchase or lease of ATCO trailers to move the hub to a better location, as well as costs associated with setting up the other location. Costs on the purchase or lease of the ATCO trailer and costs associated with the new location.
We'll have some discussion on that now.
Just get the motion figured out.
Okay.
Administration to bring back costs on, I guess, on the new location or setting up the new location. Oh, that's okay. New location and costs associated and as well as purchase or lease of aqua trailers to move to the hub to their location. Yep.
Do we have a date?
How long would you need? May 20, what's this first meeting in June? Is a month long enough?
It is. We have most of the information already, so we could just refine it in consultation with the open door and bring it back for the, is it the
June
10th?
7th?
June 7th, yeah.
And I'll speak to it.
We'll have some.
I completely get it, that this isn't a cost that is a city's responsibility or a municipality's responsibility. It is 100% a provincial responsibility. We aren't getting capital expenses to set up a new building or whatever it happens to be from the province or the federal government. I'm not okay with the issues that we've faced as a city for the 30 years that I've been here, or however long you want to date it back to. If we're not, if I don't like something, I want to change it. I don't like it, I want to change it. That's all I got.
Dean?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Councillor Dean?
So just for clarification, so you're looking at this, us finding the money for this. You're not going to investigate other.
Oh, no,
avenues?
we've been trying to get funding from the province and the federal government and Musqueam and
I get
Peter from down the street. We're absolutely trying to find funding every way possible. But we've now got a time limit on when the hub is going to close. And to Councillor Blatt's point, that having a break in programming is not okay with me. So while we're not getting support from the province or the federal government to set up a new location, then take the matters into our own hands and do it ourselves.
Any further discussion? Al?
Well, I think this is a pretty hefty bill for a city that can't even afford to fix roads in the city. And I think some other priorities have to come into effect here, because we are running a city and we do have priorities where we have allocated a fixed budget to go ahead and do repairs, do our sewer, do our lagoons, and so forth. There's no way that we'll be able to afford $750,000 to set up ATCO trailers at the expense of our taxpayers.
Councillor Nielsen?
I'm going to support the motion because there's absolutely nothing wrong with getting good information upon which to make good decisions. And you're right, it might be $750,000, it might be $3 million, it might be 30 million. I have no idea. And whether it's our cost or whether it's a provincial ministry's cost, having that information is critical to any conversations we are going to be having with any ministry that is prepared to talk to us and open door. So I think having the information is a benefit on multiple layers.
Thank you, Councillor Nielsen. Councillor Black?
Councillor Hillgardner, it's almost as if we had a building that the hub could operate out of for little expense while we waited for funding to come in from the province or from the federal government. But at this point, I think that if we're going to start exploring options for finding a place for the hub to operate in the future in the 90 days, I think that we need to find any option available for us, because in the event that we can't find any other option, the expenses will likely have to come back on us if we decide that we want to have the hub still here.
Kevin Lonsdale? Councilor Lonsdale?
Thank you, sir. As I mentioned before, I am willing to do whatever work it takes to try to find a better solution. And I think this information is something that we are going to direly need as of right now. To get to that solution isn't going to be easy. Nothing has been easy on us in the last 3.5 years. And some of my colleagues longer than that, but the least we can do is to get some information to see what's going to happen and what needs to be done. And I believe it is still a shared responsibility. And even though I voted in favor of the 90-day lease termination, I am still ready to work and try to find a better solution. And any information we can get, I'm fine with. So.
Thank you. Councilor Boone?
I too agree that information is key to this. So I too will support your motion. Having said that, I do agree with Councilor Hillgartner that if it comes back that we are looking to put money towards this as a city, I'm going to be hard pressed to commit any money towards it. But let's find out what the dollar amount is first.
I want costs back so that we do move forward on this. So my ultimate goal will be, while I'm still continuing to try to find funding through the province and through the federal government and through every other person that is willing to donate to the cause, that will be my ultimate, I mean, unless it's $400 million, obviously, that will be my motion at the time when that information comes back. My purpose or my intent is that the city purchases or leases these aqua trailers, sets up the hub so they can continue the work that they're doing, because it's obviously having an impact in the community.
So further questions?
Can I follow up? So if it's $250,000, you're okay with that?
100%.
Okay.
So if no further questions, we'll ask administration to.
No, it's a vote.
No, I know we're having a vote.
Okay.
Just reading what's there. To bring back cost for setting up a new location for the hub, as well information on purchasing or lease of ATCO trailers by June 7, 2021. So I'll have the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
You have to vote too, Mr. Chair.
I'm opposed. Carried.
So can I follow up on that then? Sorry, who's got the chair?
I took it back.
To me or?
He's got the gavel.
Back at me. I'm okay or no?
Yes, please.
Okay. I think a lot of the conversation we've had this evening revolves around not about the value, not about what the benefits have been for this population, what the impact has been on this population once they've left the facility. And we've talked about safety lots. And I think around this table, we've agreed that regardless of where the location may end up being, we still have some safety concerns. And so I would like to make a motion that council directs administration to work with the RCMP and CPOs to develop a safety strategy related to the integrated hub in the event it relocates. And I would say, if I spoke to it, I would say, I don't want to get caught in a situation where we open the hub and then we haven't got the necessary safety plan in place until after the hub gets operational. I think that's dangerous for the hub, and I think it's dangerous for the community, and I think it's dangerous for the vulnerable population.
Sue?
Through the chair to Councillor Nielsen, is it possible that we table this until the next motion is done? Because that's a lot of work to do when we don't know a location. Like, we could bring back multiple locations to council on the 7th and multiple options, and I don't want to do safety strategies for every option.
That's fair enough. I'll
Or
withdraw.
if it's not even an option, if council doesn't vote to.
Yeah, I will withdraw the motion.
Okay.
I can withdraw it. I can bring it up again.
Anything else? All right. Item 9A, I got a letter from Mr. Bill Blair for your perusal. Need somebody to accept correspondence as information. Councillor Blatz, those in favor? Carried. Item 10A, closed session, section 24 of VoIP. Thanks to all the staff that aren't going to be here any longer.
For tonight.
Well, yes. I don't have the ability to fire anybody.
Tonight.
So they're safe.
Good catch.
It is
Good
closed
catch.
session. Stay calm.
Yeah, thanks for your time. We're going into closed session.
Karen, I just texted
Councillor Lonsdale, those in favor? Need a motion to, how do you want that? Motion to direct administration to deal with the matter in camera? Yeah, no, it'll need some wordsmithing anyway.
Yes.
They're just asleep at home.
The Netflix ad is going to pop up saying you're still there.
I move, do you need a motion, Tyler?
Yeah.
I move that counselor give administration, direct administration to negotiate with on 50/50.
No names.
No name, okay, of the bill. Because that's who's
As long as the cost fully doesn't mean that it's what they think.
Right.
Okay, to the motion on the floor, any discussion? Ready for the question, those in favor? Carried. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Blatz.
Every hand shot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You can still.